K-X-O-L-O-T-L! My time has not to burn! I invoke the ancient power that I may return! That I may return! That I may return!
You grow up wishing that summer could last forever. How there's so much you could do if you only had the time. If it just lasted a bit longer. But it can't. That's a part of growing up. Things change. Summer ends. And while there still might be things you want to try, mysteries you want to solve, questions that need an answer, at some point you have to move on. But all the while, there's this sinking feeling that you're missing something. Are you being watched? Does something out there have all the answers? Maybe. But maybe those are answers that aren't worth the risk of awaking something darker. Or are they? Any questions I might have, I can find the answers myself. Bill, what are you hiding? Life is full of mysteries. Everywhere we go, everything we do, we're surrounded by secrets. That game you're playing, that book you're reading, even that TV show you're watching that ended years ago. Mysteries tap into our curiosity, our need to learn, to know everything we possibly can about a particular subject, to help us understand the most complex questions. And that is why today we'll be taking a look at the wildly popular and successful Disney Channel show, Gravity Falls. Created by Alex Hirsch and first premiering on June 15th, 2012, Gravity Falls was a show about twins Dipper and Mabel going to stay with their great Uncle Stan in the town of Gravity Falls. But after Dipper finds a mysterious journal, it appears that things may not be as they seem. It's been over 10 years since the mystery twins Dipper and Mabel first hit the airwaves, and to celebrate, I want to look at the show's biggest mysteries, and maybe see what mysteries are still lingering in the shadows. And we might even take a look at the pilot. So hold on to your pine tree hat, put on your favorite sweater, and please, refrain from shaking hands with any statues you might find in the woods. Just trust me on that one. My main goal of this video is to provide a general rundown of the show itself, its many mysteries and secrets, and to go on a sort of deep dive into supplemental material to the show, such as the shorts, so that at the end of this, you'll hopefully know more about Gravity Falls than you did going in. I also want to say up front that this video will contain massive spoilers for the entirety of the show, so if you haven't seen the show or are currently watching through it, I'd suggest not going past this point. You have been warned. With that out of the way, let's get started by taking a look at the first season of the show. From the very beginning, Alex Hirsch wanted Gravity Falls to have lots of mystery early on. Alex wanted the show to be as rewarding to viewers as possible, so he stuffed in secret codes and messages when he could. So, for both seasons, I'll be taking a look at each episode, giving a brief description of the episode, going over any trivia or notes I might have, and then, after I cover each season, we'll go over the secret and hidden messages in each episode, and I'll explain what each one is. I won't be getting super detailed with the episode rundown, just the basics, unless it's a major episode or something that I feel I need to point out. With all that said, let's get started with Season 1.
Coming up next, what will be the mystery of the day? Take a trippy trip to Gravity Falls and find out. Next on Disney Channel.
Tourist Trapped.
On Disney XD, Gravity Falls is a mystery to Dipper and Mabel until... Whoa!
What you reading? Some nerd thing?
A hidden journal
What is all this?
reveals the clues. Sup?
Norman is not what he seems.
You think he might be a vampire?
Shabam!
Uncover the secrets of Gravity Falls tonight at 7/6 Central on Disney XD.
Twins Dipper and Mabel are sent to live with their Grunkle Stan in the mysterious town of Gravity Falls, Oregon for the summer. Dipper soon finds a mysterious journal full of all kinds of drawings of monsters and creatures and other oddities, which leads him to believe that Mabel's new crush is a zombie, when, in reality, it turns out to just be a few gnomes standing on top of one another. This episode took a while to get right for Alex and the rest of the crew, to the point where it was the 7th episode produced overall. This allowed the crew more time to figure out the show's identity and how they wanted the first episode to start. As a result of this being one of the later episodes produced, The Time Traveler's Pig had been finished before this episode needed to be fully wrapped, so Alex was able to sneak Time Traveler Blendin Blandin into the background of this episode. The scene at the end where Dipper gets his iconic pine tree hat and Mabel gets her
Grappling hook!
was included because Alex wanted the show to have continuity and change. He wanted to avoid things changing and then reverting back in the next episode, as is common with most cartoons. Speaking of continuity, we get our first hint at Stan hiding something behind the vending machine at the end of this episode. However, the crew weren't sure where the vending machine led at this point. The only thing they knew for sure in terms of this plot thread was that Stan had a brother and he was missing. The rest, they'd have to figure out over time. Legend of the Gobblewonker.
Legend has it,
I seen it! I seen it again!
a mysterious creature
The Gravity Falls Gobblewonker!
resides in Gravity Falls.
Did you guys hear that?
Do you believe?
All you gotta do is point and shoot, like this.
The picture!
Take a trip, if you dare, to Gravity Falls. Premieres Friday, June 29th at 9:30, 8:30 Central on Disney Channel.
Stan wants to take the kids fishing, but instead they go off with Seuss to find a mysterious lake monster. This episode was the first one ever written for the show. There were 8 different versions of this episode written. One version included a party boat with a character named Willie J, who played a steel drum, being a major character in the episode. The cave that the twins and Seuss lead the Gobblewonker into at the end of the episode was originally going to come back in future episodes, as the writers had an idea that the cave would house some of the secrets of Gravity Falls. But we end up never going back to this location, so this idea was sorta dropped. In the Between the Pines special that aired before the series finale, it is revealed that Old Man McGucket was originally going to sing a song about the Gobblewonker in this episode, and about how it's gonna get ya. But it was cut because it made the length of the episode too long, and also because the crew realized that McGucket was just a terrible singer. This episode also features another cameo from Blendin Blandin. Before moving on to the next episode, we need to address a fake screenshot that started circulating online shortly after this episode aired. Sometime after the episode aired, this screenshot appeared online with a red circle pointing us to Slender Man hiding in the background of the scene where Mabel is poking Dipper. And due to how popular Slender Man was at the time, remember this was in the summer of 2012, people immediately began speculating if this screenshot was real, which resulted in interest for the show growing as people tried to find out if Slender Man had really appeared in a show on Disney Channel. But obviously the screenshot was fake. However, when asked on Twitter if the Slender Man rumor was true, Alex Hirsch responded with, "Every Gravity Falls rumor is true," implying that while he may not be in that particular episode, that he could still potentially be out there somewhere. And years later, in 2018, when the graphic novel Gravity Falls Lost Legends was released, Slender Man did in fact make a cameo in the story Face It. And while the screenshot may have been debunked years ago, attempts to find the individual or individuals who made it have been unsuccessful. However, in July of 2022, 10 years after the image first circulated, the image had been tracked down to have originated from a now defunct message board and was posted on July 6, 2012. And after using photo forensics to find the metadata of the image, it was determined that this was indeed the original unaltered image with no red circle around Slender Man. Man, it's been over 6 years since the show ended and we're still solving its mysteries. That's honestly pretty awesome. Headhunters.
It's finally here.
Look alive, people!
The show you've been waiting for. Disney Channel's Gravity Falls premiere weekend.
Go, 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 go! It all kicks off next Friday night starting at 9/8 Central.
Yeesh, you two get hit by a bus or something?
See how Dipper and Mabel found their way to the Mystery Shack.
Blindfolds never lead to anything good.
Followed by the premiere of an all-new Gravity Falls.
Monster Hunt!
See what really lurks in the lake.
Guys, do you feel that?
Then on Saturday night, catch another all-new Gravity Falls.
I found the secret door.
A crime takes place inside the Mystery Shack,
He's been murdered!
leaving Dipper and Mabel on the case.
The evidence is irrefutable.
It's so irrefutable.
The screams continue through Sunday night, when you get another chance to see all 3 episodes back-to-back.
What do we do?
Take a trip, if you dare, and be here for Gravity Falls premiere weekend. Starts next Friday at 9/8 Central on Disney Channel.
Mabel sculpts a life-size wax sculpture of Stan to add to the Mystery Shack's collection of wax figures, but when the wax figure's head goes missing, the twins have to find out who did it. With this episode, Alex wanted to flesh out the town a bit more and go full-on mystery with it. However, this episode proved challenging for Alex because he had to write it in 3 days. And this became even more frustrating when the writing software Alex was using, Final Draft, closed in the middle of Alex writing. This caused him to smash his keyboard, sending some of the keys onto the floor. In the audio commentary for this episode, it's mentioned that the various Bill Cipher cameos throughout the early parts of the first season were mainly just an inside joke amongst the crew. They didn't have a big bad planned for the show yet at this point.
And there are things that we weren't 100% sure who our final big bad was going to be.
Yeah.
Bill was sort of more an inside joke than he was a character at this stage.
Yeah, I remember when Alex was like, "What if Bill's the villain?" I was like, "You have lost the plot, my friend. This is utter madness." But it ended up great.
The hand that rocks the Mabel.
Friday night, you met Grunkle Stan. You stepped inside the Mystery Shack. Now, it's time to check out the rival. Child psychic Gideon.
Hello, America! That's Stan's mortal enemy?
And he's setting his sights
I have a vision.
on Mabel.
Will you do me the honor of going on a date with me?
What? All new Gravity Falls, Friday at 9:30, 8:30 Central. Part of Night It premieres on Disney Channel.
Dipper and Mabel meet a fraudulent child psychic named Little Gideon. When Gideon begins obsessing over Mabel and tries to win her over, Dipper tries to stop him. The crew wanted the ending of this episode to be a big continuity hook, like a massive twist or turn. And then Rob Renzetti came up with the idea that Gideon had Journal Number 2. Originally, they had a mysterious, shadowy figure talking to Gideon, but they had no idea who it would be. However, they knew that Stan's brother had been taken away by some mysterious force, and they wanted Gideon to be connected to this force in some way. The Inconveniencing.
Tomorrow,
Mabel, do you believe in ghosts?
buckle up for Disney Channel's Summer Adventure Weekend with an all-new Gravity Falls.
There it is, fellas.
Why did they shut it down? It's like a health code violation, or?
Try murder. The place has been haunted ever since.
Find out what possesses the dusk to dawn.
What was that? Thought I heard some lady screaming back here.
What do we do? Quick, in there!
Hey, ghost! I've got something to tell you!
And who will live to text about it?
Whoa!
Status update.
On an all-new Gravity Falls, tomorrow at 9:30, 8:30 Central. Part of Summer Adventure Weekend on Disney Channel.
Dipper attempts to woo Wendy by lying about his age. Hanging out with Wendy and her friends, the kids end up in an old abandoned convenience store that appears to be haunted.
We knew that Dipper's crush on Wendy was going to be a big part of the show. We knew we wanted Wendy to be this really memorable, great character, but we weren't entirely sure how to do it. And I remember when we were trying to crack the first episode, you and me even came up with an episode. We're like, what if the first episode is like Dipper's got a crush on Wendy? Remember the Bury Your Feelings episode? And I remember you, Rob, saying, it's your first episode. You have to build to this. Your first episode is sell your main characters. Are you out of your mind? And we were like, yeah, Rob's right. Rob's right on this one.
We would like, he would leave the room and be like, we could still do it though, right? And then we would try to work on it, and then he's like, God,
Rob was right. It's impossible.
There were a bunch of different ideas about why the ghosts were haunting the kids, but what these ideas were are unknown. The Lammy Lammy dance is based on writer Michael Rianda's childhood experiences of being dressed up like a bunny by his sister and being forced to dance. In 2021, he released a photo of himself in that costume and the tweet went viral. Dipper versus manliness.
All Dipper ever wanted
You see this chest hair? My eyes!
was the chance
This thing must be broken. It's totally broken, guys.
to be a man.
Are you some kind of minotaur?
Minotaur, half man, half tour.
Next Friday night,
Beasts, I have brought you a hairless child.
Sup?
he'll practice, he'll train, and he'll prepare himself for the ultimate battle.
I shall conquer the multiverse! I'm okay.
Brace yourself for an all-new Gravity Falls.
To victory!
Next Friday at 9:30, 8:30 Central, part of night of premieres on Disney Channel.
When Dipper wants to become more manly, he wanders into the forest on an epic quest and meets a strange species that teach him the ways of their masculinity. Meanwhile, Mabel tries to get Stan to impress Lazy Susan. Alex thought this episode was far removed from what Gravity Falls was and wasn't happy with how it was turning out, and even asked the executives at Disney if they could just not air an episode. The multi-bear was originally called the Bear Bear. This was all an excuse so there could be a joke where Dipper goes, "There, Bear Bear," but it was changed because Bear Bear was copyrighted. Double Dipper.
This night is like legendary.
Friday, August 10th.
Butterflies!
Does it even work?
Dipper's unbelievable discovery
I think this copier can copy human beings!
leads to a peculiar plan.
I gotta get in there. Cover for me?
Well,
Thanks, man.
If only I could be two places at once. I will call you number 2. Definitely not.
While Mabel
Who is that? The most popular girl in town, Pacifica Northwest.
takes a stand.
Try and top that. I'm gonna do a flip! That was for you guys!
All new Gravity Falls. Friday, August 10th at 9/8 Central, part of night of premieres on Disney Channel.
Stan throws a party at the Mystery Shack, while Dipper produces clones of himself to help him impress Wendy, and Mabel faces off against her new rival Pacifica Northwest in a karaoke battle. The writers wanted to do a school dance episode, but since there was no school, they thought that Stan throwing a kid dance party to attract customers was a fun idea. They originally weren't sure where the party would take place inside the Mystery Shack, so they came up with the idea of the parlor. Originally, Dipper tries to stop the party because he hates dances. There was a version of this episode where Dipper conjured Bill Cipher to stop the party, and another version where he contacts the ghost of an old dance style. These ideas were all scrapped because they made Dipper too unlikable. At the 11th hour, the idea of Dipper wanting to dance with Wendy came about, and they figured out the rest of the story from there. Irrational Treasure.
Man, look at the town.
Ah, no.
It happens once a year.
We gotta get out of here.
Uncle Stan, what's going on?
Pioneer Day!
This year,
I gotta investigate this.
Gravity Falls Museum of History.
We're gonna have to break in.
Those kids will never get past us. Hey!
Dipper and Mabel's discovery.
Look!
Oh, gross! She's picking my nose!
Now we'll find out who the real town founder was.
Will change Gravity Falls for... You'll just have to watch and find out.
Oh, come on!
All new Gravity Falls.
Are you ready?
Next Friday at 9:30, 8:30 Central on Disney Channel.
On the annual Pioneer Day in Gravity Falls, the kids discovered that the town's founder was a fraud and a hoax. So they set out to expose the truth. However, when they do, Sheriff Blobbs and Deputy Derlin go after them to stop the secret from being revealed. The crew liked the idea of Mabel trying to prove that she could be serious, and they also liked that there would be some sort of conspiracy. But weaving those two storylines together proved difficult. There was an early draft where Pacifica called Mabel stupid, but it didn't sit right with the writers, as they felt that it was too mean-spirited, so it was cut. The crew always saw Mabel as a smart character, even when she was being silly. One regret the crew has is never getting to pay off the President's Key. This is the only episode where the Mystery Shack doesn't appear. The Time Traveler's Pig.
Friday.
Step right up and dunk me, folks.
It's a special, all new Gravity Falls.
I'm talking to you, Cutoff.
Come to the Mystery Shack Fair
The mission is proceeding as planned.
for a simple
Oh my gosh, a pig! My eye!
Carnival.
Hey, watch where you're going, man.
But is it?
You two!
Are you from the future or something?
Are you following us around?
Identities will finally be revealed.
Whoa! Everything is different now.
All new Gravity Falls.
This making any sense to you?
Friday at 9:30, 8:30 Central. Part of Night of Premieres on Disney Channel.
Dipper's wish comes true when he steals a time traveler's time machine to undo a mistake and win Wendy over, while Mabel accompanies him to keep on winning her pig waddles, until, when Dipper finally undoes his mistake, Mabel loses her pig to her nemesis, Pacifica Northwest. Elsewhere, Stan rigs a dunk tank to scam the town. The origin of this episode is that Alex's sister Ariel was obsessed with pigs as a kid, and one of the show's writers actually had a pet pig named Waddles at one point. The quick glimpse of Ford in this episode originally showed his 6 fingers, but Alex made the decision to cut it at the last second, as it would give it away. Fight Fighters.
Friday. Dipper will face
Oh no.
his biggest fear.
You, me, Circle Park, 3 o'clock.
What was I thinking? I can't fight. Look at these noodle arms.
Before this fight can begin,
I thought you'd chicken out.
Just call this thing off before someone gets hurt.
Dipper
The smart money's on skinny jeans.
You take that back.
must uncover
To unleash ultimate power?
another secret in Gravity Falls.
What the? High five!
Ow, your pixels are really sharp.
All new Friday at 9:30, 8:30 Central on Disney Channel.
Dipper brings a video game character, Rumble McSkirmish, to life so he can fight Robbie. But when things go too far, Dipper realizes he needs to save Robbie. Meanwhile, Mabel tries to end Stan's fear of heights. The pixel sprites were animated by pixel animator Paul Robertson, best known for his work on games such as Scott Pilgrim vs. the World the Game and Fez. When Rumble wins his fight with Dipper, the Japanese kanji shown on his back stands for fart. Little Dipper.
Friday, September 28th.
You just sat over the mystery shack to little old me.
He's back.
You're an idiot.
How dare you?
And this time,
What am I doing?
Gideon wants the Mystery Shack.
The shack is mine. No! Your business, your family, everything will finally be mine.
All new Gravity Falls.
I don't even know how to respond to this.
Friday, September 28th at 9:30, 8:30 Central on Disney Channel.
Feeling insecure that Mabel is becoming the alpha twin, Dipper seeks a magical crystal to grow taller. But when Gideon finds the crystal, he uses it to shrink the kids and tries to use it on Stan to take over the Mystery Shack. This episode was based on Alex's experience as a kid of being the shortest kid in class. A lot of the Wendy and Dipper stuff comes from Alex's real life experiences, where the girl he had a crush on in school was taller than he was.
This episode did come from like a real life observation, which is that I remember when I was in 6th grade, I was literally the shortest kid in class. Like they did a thing where they're like, let's figure out who the shortest kid is and the tallest kid.
Who would do that? That's a horrible teacher you had.
But he still is. He's 4 foot tall.
Line them all up.
He's on 12 phone books right now.
Lower my voice, lower the pitch.
So in 6th grade, a lot of the Dipper Wendy stuff literally comes from like in 6th grade, I was paired up in a table group with Kirsten Johnson, who
her already.
was going like
I like that name.
was like a normal person. She was like normal person height, and I was like this little tiny munchkin, and I was like in love with her. And I remember being like, why would the universe do this? Why would the universe give me a brain to fall in love trapped in this little tiny baby body? And I remember that Ariel, me and my sister, had always been the same height all throughout elementary school. In 6th grade, she grew like half an inch taller than me, and it was like the worst day of my life. I was like, what cruel universe would do this?
Now, did she continue to increase that difference? Did she keep
Absolutely
growing?
not. No.
Okay, you caught up.
Literally
You caught up.
a month later, the puberty train finally came to the station.
All right.
I became a normal person, and
That's good.
I tower
I'm
over
glad
her
to hear
now.
you didn't have to suffer for too long.
Yeah.
Why you say that's good?
I said that's good. I don't know.
That's good.
I'm
That's
sorry.
good. Yeah. No. I mean, it's whatever.
Ariel, you're a delight.
She's the best.
But your height is not important to me.
I remember. I was trying to think
As
about
long as
like
you're shorter than Alex.
I guess.
The crew always wanted to take the magical elements and ground them in reality so that nothing ever came off too cartoony.
We were always looking for ways to take things that were really magical and absurd and ground them.
Yeah.
So Mabel saying like, all right, where's the wizard? Like, that's our way of grounding. They're real people responding to magic. And we do it visually. Like, Dipper's head growing large. I remember when I saw that in the storyboard, I was like, this feels too cartoony. And so the note was, let's have him smash a part of the shack.
Yeah.
And suddenly it's real. Like, the caterpillar going off in the distance, the note is, let's add a car alarm in the background.
So it
like,
crushes cars.
Can we add something? And even this, like, cut to how little the laugh is.
Right.
Like, can you ground it?
Yeah. Well, and that was one thing we're always trying to do with the writing and the boarding, which is like, can it either be observational, like this should look exactly like a bad used car lot, or can it be a totally new thing, like either observation or innovation? Because otherwise you're left with like cliche and you're doing the same things that every other cartoon show has ever done. So you're always trying to either draw from life or invent something new.
Summerween.
Next Friday, visit the only town that celebrates Halloween.
Here we are, the Summerween Superstore.
Wait, summer what?
Twice a year.
Happy summer Sup, squirt.
And only in Gravity Falls.
Trick or treat!
Well, aren't you just the cutest?
Will the tricks
Guys?
outweigh the treats?
Break!
Celebrate Monstober. Knock, knock.
This cackling head's the voice of a generation.
With an all-new Gravity Falls. Next Friday at 9, 8 Central. Part of Monstober Night of Premieres on Disney Channel.
The citizens of Gravity Falls celebrate a summer version of Halloween called Summerween. Meanwhile, Dipper accidentally insults a monster, and he, Mabel, Candy, and Grinda must make sure they have enough candy to give the monster before the night is over, or he will eat them. The crew really wanted to do a Halloween episode and essentially just made an excuse to do one during the summer, because the summer setting didn't really allow for many holiday stories, like Christmas or Valentine's Day, so the crew had to get creative. The episode originally had a different cold open. Originally, Stan ran into the kids and made his face melt off to scare them, to introduce them to the idea of Summerween. But Alex felt there was so much more to Halloween, so he changed the script late into production. The face melt was moved till later in the episode when Stan greets the trick-or-treaters. Mabel's sweater is meant to be Freddy Krueger's sweater from the film A Nightmare on Elm Street. In an early draft, Dipper was dressed as an old-time naval ship, but Alex wanted Dipper and Mabel to be two things that went together. They didn't want the monster to crack any jokes, they wanted it to actually be scary. Boss Mabel.
Friday, February 15th.
Hello?
Gravity Falls is back.
Yeah! Sweet!
With an all-new episode.
3 days, 72 hours. You run the shack and I'll go on vacation.
Did you just make a bet with a professional con man?
And you won't believe
Behold!
who's taking over the Mystery Shack.
You wanted to see us, Mr. Barnes?
Stan is no longer with us.
No!
Mabel's in charge now.
Now, Mabel might turn the shack
Let's go, people!
into the scariest place in Gravity Falls.
So cold.
All new.
Dipper out!
Friday, February 15th at 9, 8 Central. Part of Night of Premieres on Disney Channel.
It's kind of nice to be back.
Mabel bets Gretel Stan that she will make more money at the Mystery Shack by treating people nicely than he does by being rude and cranky. He heads off to win a fortune on a TV game show while she deals with lazy employees and a real monster captured by Dipper. This episode started with Alex wanting to do a Stan and Mabel episode. This idea also came from Alex and Mike Rianda having to deal with the stress of being bosses and in charge for the first time. They didn't want the Grim Moblin to look like the monsters from Gummy Bears. Bottomless Pit.
Friday, March 1st.
It's some sort of invisible pushing force. Everyone back to the shack.
One fall down the bottomless pit
Where are we?
We're somewhere where it looks like we're nowhere.
Go on.
leads to 3 terrifying tales.
You guys all made fun of my old voice.
Hilarious!
Questions will be asked.
Are either of you good at making annoying noises?
My time has come.
Some will stay unanswered.
The doctors assigned me a seeing eye bear.
Wait, what? Did you expect anything else in Gravity Falls?
How does it end?
All new, Friday, March 1st at 9/8 Central on Disney Channel.
When Dipper, Mabel, Stan, and Seuss fall into a bottomless pit and can't stop falling, they tell stories to pass the time. This episode started out with the writers wanting an easier episode produced with fewer backgrounds, but it ended up turning into a bigger episode with more complex backgrounds. Alex wanted the episode to have the characters fall down to the bottomless pit and just have them be in complete darkness for 22 minutes to save time and money, but he had trouble coming up with a suitable story, so this was scrapped. They had trouble figuring out what the final story would be, and thus ended up coming up with the final story at 4:15 in the morning, the day before the script was due. Alex wanted Sam Elliott to play the Cowboy Skull, but he wasn't returning the team's calls, so Alex had to do it himself at the last minute. Originally, the Spittoon Parlor, a meaningless name, was a saloon, but standards and practices said they couldn't call it that. They couldn't say Super Bowl due to it being copyrighted, but Football Bowl was perfectly fine. At the end of the episode, there was an idea to have the characters be in a parallel version of Gravity Falls for the rest of the series, but they couldn't figure out how to make it work, so this was scrapped. The Deep End.
Friday, March 15th, right after the explosive Wizard Special, it's an all-new Gravity Falls.
All in favor of doing nothing all day, say,
There's only one place in town to cool off.
Gravity Falls pool? Whoa! Stop the presses!
Go to him.
And while Dipper takes the plunge,
hey!
Hey.
What if I was assistant lifeguard?
You just have to check in with my boss first.
Your boss?
Mabel makes a splash.
How long have you been underwater?
That doesn't matter.
All new Gravity Falls.
Deal with it.
Friday, March 15th, right after the premiere of The Wizard's Return, Alex vs. Alex on Disney Channel.
Mabel befriends a cute merman trapped in the deep end of the public pool and is determined to return him to his family in the ocean, even if that means that this new romance of hers will come to an end. Meanwhile, Dipper learns that Wendy is a lifeguard at the pool, so he decides that the best way to spend time with her is to volunteer. Meanwhile, it's all-out war for the best lawn chair at the pool between Stan and Gideon. Will Forte originally voiced Mr. Poolcheck, but his voice was too high and wasn't as scary as it needed to be, so Mike Rianda did the voice instead. Wendy wasn't originally wearing a one-piece, and the network had a big issue with that. Carpet Diem.
Next Freaky Freakend Friday.
You're not having it.
It's time for Dipper and Mabel to get their own rooms.
That's it. That's the final straw.
Fine by me.
Only
This room gives me major creepo vibes.
getting a new room
You both want this room, huh?
comes with a catch.
We're not going to suck up to you just to get the new room.
Yeah, we are.
And when their plan to win hits a little snag,
Am I in your body?
Am I in your body?
Yes.
let the freak out begin.
I'm a man trapped in a pig's body. This is getting weird. What just happened?
On an all-new Gravity Falls.
The end.
Next Friday at 9/8 Central, part of Freaky Freakend on Disney Channel.
Seuss discovers a hidden room inside the Mystery Shack, and Dipper is happy to claim it as his own independent space, but there's one problem. Mabel wants the room too. So they both compete for Stan's approval to win the room as part of a contest that gets even trickier when the siblings switch bodies due to the room's mysterious shag rug. The crew wanted to push Dipper and Mabel's relationship and build tension from it, so they came up with the idea of the two of them potentially having to share the new room. Dipper clicking the pen is based on Alex chewing on pens and Sharpies while working on the show.
We were trying to think of a way that Dipper could be obnoxious to Mabel even though he's not loud.
Yeah.
And like self-satisfied smug whispering to himself at 3 a.m. Felt really
Clicking a pen nonstop. Because Alex always had a pen in his mouth, and it was typically a Sharpie. And I would say I've seen 5 or 6 times when the Sharpie exploded in his mouth while he's like pacing and speed talking about like the stakes in this episode. Like we just gotta figure out the stakes. I mean, and then like black ink running down his chin.
Yeah, there's a lot of Dipper's mannerisms. The bags under his eyes, the chewing on pens that are definitely... The crew put some of me into Dipper there.
Yeah.
After this episode aired, some fans had already pieced together the entire series arc, partially thanks to Ford's glasses being in the hidden room.
We're always looking for opportunities to put canonical, like, oh, this is eventually going to be, Stan's brother's room or something. And we're trying to put little clues in the episode, but I think some people online figured out the whole mystery from just this little clue. I'm not sure which one it was.
Yeah, this episode was the one... After this aired,
these glasses.
There were people who figured out almost our entire series arc.
Yeah.
We thought we were being clever, and we underestimated the crowdsourcing brilliance of the hive mind of the internet, putting all of their minds together and trying every option until they figured out what was going on.
Boys crazy.
Friday.
Today is the greatest day of my life.
Ow! Several times?
The cutest boys in the world.
When this boy band hits Gravity Falls.
Several times.
Show's sold out.
Oh, I said we're going to meet several times tonight. And I meant it.
Mabel keeps her word.
This is it, girls.
Who goes there?
But does she go too far?
What's in the bag?
Holy mackerel!
We have to promise not to get too attached to them, right, Mabel?
All aboard the freight train. Braid.
Find out on an all-new Gravity Falls.
Thank you, good night!
Friday at a special time of 9/8 Central on Disney Channel.
When Mabel discovers that her favorite boy band is actually a bunch of imprisoned clones, she sets them free only to decide on keeping them for herself. Meanwhile, Dipper thinks that Robbie has brainwashed Wendy using a secret message hidden in the lyrics of one of his songs. This episode was inspired by Alex's sister Ariel's obsession with boy bands as a kid. Specifically her obsession with NSYNC and how she would be obsessed with one boy band after another. The song Robbie plays for Wendy was originally going to be revealed to be from a band that Robbie ripped off, but it wasn't made clear enough in the episode, which reportedly tricked some viewers into thinking that Robbie really had brainwashed Wendy. Land before swine.
Hey, you feel that?
Reckon we should report that.
Friday, June 28th. Gravity Falls goes Jurassic.
Howdy, friends! This guy.
With an all-new discovery.
The creature.
That takes everyone on a huge, epic,
Wait, did you hear that?
dino-sized hunt.
River Pines!
Will they escape?
Aww.
Find out on an all-new Gravity Falls.
I'm watching you, pig.
Friday, June 28th at 9/8 Central on Disney Channel.
High five!
A prehistoric pterodactyl snatches Waddles after Grunkle Stan throws him outside, and Dipper, Mabel, Stan, Seuss, and Old Man McGucket go after the beast in order to save Waddles, while also working out friendship issues between each other. There's a fake tattoo on Stan's back in the fake flashback. It says lies in code. Waddles wearing a sweater didn't come up until the crew realized the characters needed a way to follow the pterodactyl. So they came up with the idea of yarn and worked backwards from there. Dreamscaperers.
Friday, July 12th.
You'll never see the Mystery Shack again!
Good luck, bucko!
They always go head-to-head.
This is the last straw.
But this time, Gideon gets inside Grunkle Stan's head.
It worked!
And only Mabel and Dipper can stop him.
Oh, yeah?
Take a trip to the most mysterious, creepiest,
Hey, Mr. Tummy!
strangest Gravity Falls yet.
Arm thrown! Arm thrown!
Friday, July 12th at 9/8 Central on Disney Channel.
Gideon wants to break into the Mystery Shack to steal the deed to the place, but Stan is able to put a stop to these plans. Gideon then uses Journal 2 to summon Bill Cipher and ask him to go into Stan's mind and steal the save combination for him. It's then up to Dipper, Mabel, and Seuss to stop Bill from finding the combination. This proved to be one of the hardest episodes for the crew to make in Season 1. They wanted to set up the season finale and also introduce Bill Cipher, a character they always knew they wanted in the show, but were never quite sure on what exactly they wanted to do with him. And they didn't know if he would be a full villain, or more like a Q from Star Trek type villain, where he is just messing with you. So that was something they had to figure out along the way. The original idea for the episode was to go into all of the main characters' dreams. This would have involved the characters lying down and sleeping in a star shape on the floor, and they were all going through each other's dreams. Bill then would have chased them through one another's dreams. For example, Seuss's dream was a children's book.
The potential of a dream episode is part of what made this so difficult, because when we thought we're doing a dream episode, it was like, well, let's go in Seuss's dreams and Mabel's dreams and Wendy's dreams, and the first drafts, we started with drafts of that. Is that right, Matt?
Yeah, absolutely. There were dreams. Yeah, they were all hooked up together. Remember, like they had to lay on the floor in like a star shape, and they were all going in through each other's brains.
And then, oh yeah, go ahead. Sorry.
Oh no, and then I think like Bill like chased them. It was kind of like the end of Being John Malkovich. Like Bill was like chasing them through everybody's dreams.
Yeah, and Seuss's dream was like him in a children's book, and it's like, you found the apple. A is for apple. It's like, I love apples. This place is great.
Yeah, we were having so much fun with the idea that like Seuss's dream world was basically like Winnie the Pooh or Dora the Explorer.
Yeah, there's
like,
a narrator.
Just this sort of like, Seuss went to the shop. Oh, dude, I love this voice. It tells me what to do. Apparently, there's a clue I should be hunting for. There's a little blue dog over here.
I feel like that turned into the like creepy British bulldog. By the end, that was what that finally morphed into. Is like, well, what if he like watched like a Simon in the Land of Chalk Drawing show when he was a kid, and it totally disturbed him. So there's like a British bulldog that he's like has nightmares about.
And the dog from Seuss's dream eventually became the talking bulldog we see in the final episode. A lot of what made it into Mabel Land and Weirdmageddon was originally written for this episode, but it was a bit too much, so the writers decided to hold on to it until later.
The idea of Mabel's dreams, my goodness, we had this idea that she's dreaming of this crazy high school with these rad boys, and a lot of that ended up in Mabel Land that was originally written for this.
The writers thought that this episode would be an interesting way to focus on Dipper and Stan's relationship. Bill originally had a very different introduction. Originally, Bill enters Dipper's dreams and essentially challenges him, saying, "I'm gonna go into your uncle's mind, try and catch me!" However, the episode ran super long and made no sense. Gideon had summoned Bill off camera, and there was no explanation as to why or what their relationship was. So the scene we all know and love was the very last thing added to the episode, as Alex and Mike decided to redo Bill's introduction at the very last second. The original concept for Bill was the trope of the godlike comic relief character who messes with the main characters. As I mentioned earlier, like Q from Star Trek. So the joke would be taking the Eye of Providence, slapping a top hat on him, and giving him a David Lynch-like voice. They also originally tried to get David Lynch to do the voice. Kraz and Zyler were originally cut when the Dreams idea was cut, but they decided to include them anyway and have a convoluted reason for them to show up. Alex knew that there would be some sort of apocalypse at the end of the show, and he had an idea that possibly part of the apocalypse was an imagination fight. And Dipper and Mabel would use their imagination to fight whoever the villain ended up being. As the crew didn't know it would be Bill at this point. And they were worried they were going to use up all that potential with the dream fight in this episode, and thus never top it. Originally, they defeated Bill and stuck him in a vortex, but the writers wanted to give the impression that Bill was a more powerful character than we were originally led to believe.
So this was another late adjustment where originally they just defeated Bill and stuck him in a vortex, and we were like, no, we need to get the sense that this is a more powerful character than that. So he just says, enough, you're more tough than I thought, I'm gonna peace out. Because we were having so much fun with putting him in this episode, we were like, we need to suggest that he's got power. But at this point, we did not know he was for sure the big bad.
No, totally.
We were still figuring that out.
Gideon rises.
Friday, August 2nd.
Kids, you're going home.
What?
It's the season finale of Gravity Falls. Gideon stole the shack.
I give you Gideon Land.
Are Dipper and Mabel really leaving?
Look, Mr. Bus Driver.
It's an episode so full of secrets, you have to watch until the very end.
This is normal.
Don't miss Gravity Falls, Friday, August 2nd at 8:30, 7:30 Central on Disney Channel.
We now come to the epic season finale. After the ending of the last episode, Gideon now owns the Mystery Shack. With Dipper, Mabel, and Stan forced to move in with Seuss and his grandmother, Stan isn't certain that he can take care of the twins, and is considering sending them back home to California. Thus, the kids get on a bus to leave Gravity Falls. But a giant robot with Gideon inside starts chasing after them because he thinks that Dipper has Journal 1. However, the twins defeat Gideon and win back their home. Grunkle Stan then exposes him as a fraud, which causes him to go to jail. At the end of the episode, it's revealed that Grunkle Stan has all 3 of the journals and has started the activation sequence for the portal located in the basement. This episode was hard because the crew wanted the season to have a satisfying ending. They wanted to create maximum tension and maximum relief. They decided that threatening to send the kids back home to California was the best way to ratchet up the stakes. The crew wasn't completely sure what was coming next for the show after this, if something was coming next. If there was, Alex thought there would be a really long hiatus. Alex was really inspired by the classic 2-part Simpsons episode, Who Shot Mr. Burns? His introduction to mystery-type stories, in terms of setting up clues throughout the episode. Like Stan's hearing aid, which he never had before or since this episode, and Gideon's pins having cameras in them. Originally, the ending was that Stan had Journal number 1, but it just wasn't enough of a twist. So they ended on Stan having all 3 of the journals with the portal. Throughout the first season of the show, there are certain hidden messages that you can find in each episode. Most of these are at the end of each individual episode, although there were a few episodes this season where there are multiple hidden messages. These are referred to as cryptograms. So I'll be going over each cryptogram as it appears in each episode. Tourist Trapped. The first cipher for the show, once decoded, reads, "Welcome to Gravity Falls." Legend of the Gobblewonker. The cryptogram for this episode is, and when decoded, reads, "Next week, return to Butt Island." Headhunters. For the end credits of this episode, the cryptogram reads, once decoded, it reads, "He's still in the vents." This is referring to Wax Larry King's head still being around in the vents after the episode. The Hand That Rocks the Mabel. The cryptogram this time reads, once decoded, it reads, "Carla, why won't you call me?" Carla was mentioned at the end of the Tinted Telepathy commercial seen during the episode. The Inconveniencing. The cryptogram this time around reads, and when it's decoded, it reads, "Onwards, Aoshima!" referring to what Mabel said while hallucinating in the episode. Dipper versus Manliness. This time around, the cryptogram reads, once decoded, it reads, "Mr. Caesarean will be out next week. Mr. Atbash will substitute." This was to help tell viewers that a new cipher, the Atbash cipher, was going to be used in future episodes. Double Dipper. For the cryptogram this episode, it reads, and when translated using the Atbash code, we get Paper Jam Dipper says, Irrational Treasure. On the negative $12 bill, the serial number is Z0239548604Z. Once you group the numbers into pairs and add up the sums of the digits, you get 2, 12, 9, 14, 4, which translates into blind, which could be seen as an early clue towards the Blind Eye Society. During the ending credits, the cryptogram reads, once decoded, it reads E pluribus trembli. In Latin, this means out of many, trembli, which is a reference to the phrase E pluribus unum, out of many, one, that appears on the seal of the United States and was a model of the country until 1956. Fight Fighters. For this episode, we get the cryptogram. Once decoded, it reads, "Sorry, Dipper, but your Wendy is in another castle." This is in reference to the Super Mario Bros. Games, where Toad will say to Mario, "Thank you, Mario, but our princess is in another castle." Little Dipper. This episode's cryptogram is, once decoded, it reads, "The invisible wizard is watching." Summerween. The cryptogram says, once translated, it reads, brought to you by Homework the Candy. Homework the Candy is one of the brands of candy in the Mystery Shack's bowl of loser candy in the episode. Boss Mabel. The cryptogram at the end of this episode reads, once decoded, it reads, heavy is the head that wears the fez. This is in reference to William Shakespeare's Henry IV, Part 2, in which King Henry says the famous line, uneasy lies the head that wears the crown, which is often misquoted as, heavy is the head that wears the crown. Bottomless Pit. This episode's cryptogram marks the first use of the A1Z26 cipher, where you replace each letter in the code with its place in the alphabet. For example, 1 is A and 20 would be T. The cryptogram in question reads, once decoded, it says, next up, Footbot 2, Grunkle's Revenge. The Deep End. The cryptogram at the end of this episode reads, and once decoded, it translates to Viven los patos de la piscina, which is Spanish for long live the pool ducks. Carpet Diem. At the bottom of the Why Am I Sweaty book, there is a Caesar cipher that reads, and once decoded, you get, puberty is the greatest mystery of all. Also, go outside and make friends. In the end credits of the episode, the cryptogram reads, once decoded, it reads, but who stole the capers? Referring to the book on Dipper's summer reading list, The Sibling Brothers in the Case of the Caper Case Caper. Boys Crazy. The cryptogram this time reads, once decoded, it reads, happy now, Ariel? A reference to Alex Hirsch's sister, Ariel Hirsch. In a Tumblr post, Ariel responded, saying that she was. The Land Before Swine. During Stan's fantasy sequence, we see the letters O, L, H, V where his burn mark should be, in a similar shape to his actual burn mark. Once decoded using the Caesar cipher, it says lies. The cryptogram for the end credits this time around is, once decoded, it reads, it works for pigs! Dreamscaperers. Stan's Mindspace version of the Mystery Shack has over the main entrance, which translates to Mystery Shack when the Caesar cipher is used. In front of Stan's Mindscape version of the Mystery Shack, there's a Pit Cola machine that has SLWW written on it, which is a Caesar cipher for Pit. The top of the Dreamscape Shack has a broken off sign that says, once decoded, it reads missed. However, this cipher is decoded using only 2 letters back, instead of the typical 3 letters back rule that the show typically uses for the Caesar cipher. When Bill's page in the journal is shown, there is a cipher in yellow behind his name. Once decoded, this message reads, liar monster, snappy dresser. In the production art for this episode, one shot of the hallways features the cipher, which is carved into a wall. Decoding it using 2 letters back translates to, curse you, Marilyn! Although it's worth mentioning that this cipher was removed from the final episode. The cipher itself is a reference to Stan's ex-wife, Marilyn. For the end credits of the episode, the cryptogram reads, once decoded, it says, to be continued. Although, Alex revealed in a Reddit AMA that the original cipher was supposed to be, next week, Zyler and Kraz's Bod Excellent Radventure, in reference to the film Bill and Ted's Excellent Adventure. Gideon Rises. Like Dreamscaperers, this episode has several cryptograms. The page for the squash with a human face and emotions in Journal 3 contains a cryptogram with several weird-looking symbols. These are the author's symbols used throughout the journals to hide messages that the author wants to convey. Using the wheel, one can easily decode these messages, although it's worth noting that the symbols for Q, X, and Z are unknown. So for the squash with a human face and emotions, once decoded, the message reads, don't eat him. Later in the episode, right after Dipper, Mabel, and Seuss run out of the room, is seen carved into a pipe under the floorboards, Once decoded, it says, Bill is watching. When it's revealed that Stan has all 3 of the journals, the left-hand page of Journal 3 contains more of the author's symbols. Once decoded, the cryptogram says, the portal, when completed, will open a gateway to infinite new worlds and herald a new era in mankind's understanding of the universe. Plus, it will probably get girls to start talking to me finally. Also, when the pages of the journals are being shown during the credits, the possible hiding places page reads, Reverse the ciphers. And finally, during the end credits of this episode, there's a cryptogram that reads, Search for the Blind Eye. This is of course referring to the Society of the Blind Eye that we will later meet in Season 2. However, when this episode was being produced, Alex Hirsch didn't know what Search for the Blind Eye meant. He just thought it was a cool sounding phrase, and he'd figure out what it meant later. In between seasons 1 and 2 of the show, 5 series of shorts were produced and aired as a way to ride the wave of momentum following the success of the first season. These were meant as a means to tell shorter stories while still getting new Gravity Falls content out into the public eye as the audience waited patiently for Season 2. The first series of shorts was called Dipper's Guide to the Unexplained, premiering on October 14th, 2013, and running until the 18th. This series focused on shorter mysteries around the town of Gravity Falls that wouldn't exactly lend enough material for a whole episode. The first short, Candy Monster, centers on Dipper and Mabel having to fight a mysterious creature that has come to the Mystery Shack to steal their Summerween candy. It's interesting to note that this short is the only time in the entirety of the show where Seuss calls Stan Grunkle Stan, because he typically just calls him Mr. Pines. The second short in this series, Stan's Tattoo, centers on Dipper attempting to get a look at Stan's mysterious tattoo. Stan claims he doesn't have a tattoo, but Dipper has photographic evidence of it. Unfortunately, Stan foils his plans at every turn, and Dipper is unable to see the tattoo. This isn't the first time that special attention has been drawn to Stan's tattoo. As in the Disney Channel web game Mystery Shack Mystery, released all the way back on December 20 of 2012, very early in the show's life, if you click on Stan's desk, you get the following cryptogram. When deciphered, the cryptogram reveals the following message. Ever notice Stan's tattoo? Short number 3, Mailbox, centers on Dipper and Sue stumbling upon a mailbox in the middle of the woods. They then embark on a mission to discover who or what exactly gets the mail left inside. Short number 4, Lefty, sees Dipper set out to discover why a resident of Gravity Falls always faces left. Short number 5, Tooth, has Dipper and Mabel finding a gigantic tooth on the shores of the lake, and they then set out in a rowboat to find out where it came from. The sixth and final short, The Hide Behind, has Dipper investigating a local lumberjack legend about a mysterious creature that has been heard, but never seen. At the end of each short, there is a section of a page that is briefly flashed on screen, showing things like symbols and cryptograms. Once combined, the sections show a giant eye with an X through it. This would be a hint towards Society of the Blind Eye. 3 of the shorts have cryptograms on these end pages. For Candy Monster, once decoded, the cryptogram reads, From the first until the last, search the... For Lefty, once decoded, the cryptogram reads, Them all, welcome to Gravity Falls. And finally, for Tooth, the cryptogram, once decoded, reads, Codes of credits passed, 1 means 1, so search. Once put together, the full message reads, From the first until the last, search the codes of credits passed, 1 means 1, so search them all, welcome to Gravity Falls. This message is a hint to solve the other codes hiding on these pages. You see, on each section of the page, there is a code in red. The number inside the right parentheses of each code indicates the Gravity Falls episode number you must search, and the numbers that follow it indicate the letter number of the episode's decoded credits cryptogram. For example, for the first code, we have the number 13 in brackets. This leads us to episode 13, Boss Mabel. If we go to that episode's ending cryptogram, Heavy is the head that wears the fez, and search for the next 3 numbers in our code, 8, 9, and 10, that will bring us to the 8th, 9th, and 10th letters in the cryptogram, T, H, and E. the. Once you do this with all 6 codes from the Dipper's Guide to the Unexplained shorts, you get the following message. I was so blind. He lied to me. The darkness is near. This is in reference to McGucket trusting Bill in the past. A warning from McGucket that Bill is coming. Starting on February 3rd, 2014, and running until the 7th, we got our second series with shorts, Mabel's Guide to Life. This series features Mabel giving her thoughts on various topics. The first short in this series, Mabel's Guide to Dating, features Mabel giving advice on dating as she gives her own custom dating quiz to the 3 most eligible bachelors in Gravity Falls, Stan, Dipper, and Seuss. Mabel gives the trio a 9,000 question quiz, and while they're taking said quiz, the short cuts to animal dating, which shows Mabel trying to match up various animals such as toads, owls, and squirrels. After this segment, the short cuts to Mabel giving the guys their scores. Stan gets an admirable 3 out of 5, which Mabel labels as dateable. Dipper's score is not revealed, although it can be assumed that it's pretty bad, as Mabel tells him that he should just be himself if he wants girls to like him, and then labels him questionable. Finally, Seuss somehow scores a 12 out of 5, and Mabel labels him a total hunk. Mabel then concludes that if you and the other person aren't right for each other, then simply force it. The short ends with the squirrels from Animal Dating attacking Mabel. The second short, Mabel's Guide to Stickers, features Mabel giving her unique perspective on stickers. Mabel shows off a history book and states that certain aspects of ancient history were essentially like modern-day stickers, using leeches and designs on armor as examples. Rather annoyed, Dipper asks her if she's ever read a history book, to which Mabel responds by editing him out of the short. It then cuts to Mabel showing off her sticker collection, which includes price tags that she's stolen from a store. Stan asks Mabel for a sticker that will stop the police from watching his car, so Mabel gives him a baby on board bumper sticker in exchange for a large barrel of industrial sprinkles. At the end, Mabel asks the audience a riddle. What kind of sticker can save your life? As part of a demonstration, Waddle steps on the grappling hook, which launches at Mabel and knocks her to the ground. She then opens her vest and shows that puffy stickers are the answer. The third short, Mabel's Guide to Fashion, features Mabel revealing her fashion secrets to the world. She states that not everybody can look as good as her, and enlists Candy and Grinda to help give flash makeovers to Seuss, Stan, and for a challenge, Old Man McGucket. The fourth short, Mabel's Guide to Color, shows Mabel taking a survey on everyone's favorite colors. Mabel surveys Pacifica, her favorite's hot pink, Grinda, her favorite is beige, Dipper, Wendy is his favorite color, Seuss, his favorite colors are lasers, liquid metal, leopard print, aurora borealis, and camouflage. Wendy's favorite color is flannel, and Candy's favorite color is a magic poster, which is not a color, but then again, most of these haven't been colors. And even Gomper's, whose favorite color is burgundy. When she gets to Stan, she discovers that Stan has never seen a rainbow. Mabel consults Candy, Grinda, and Dipper on how to show Stan a rainbow. Candy comes up with the idea to reflect a rainbow from the waterfall to the Mystery Shack window. Candy and Dipper hold up a giant mirror and reflect a rainbow into Stan's office window, which is unfortunately very powerful and hurts Stan's eyes, and it also sets fire to a few things in his office. The short ends with Dipper and Seuss wrapping bandages around Stan's face, and Mabel stating that next week's episode will be about apologizing to your great-uncle. The fifth and final short, Mabel's Guide to Art, starts with Mabel showing us some of her drawings of Dipper from when she was little. She then shows us her latest idea, a caricature, which is just a drawing of a cat wearing Dipper's pine tree hat. She also makes one of Waddles, Stan, Wendy, Seuss, and even Toby Determined. Stan then decides to sell the caricatures. Mabel then presents her newest idea, Humana Caricature, which is a drawing on the stomach of a real cat, and everyone immediately wants one. The short ends with Mabel being attacked by cats while she tries to draw in them, with the moral of the story being, sometimes you have to suffer for your art. The final 3 series of shorts each contain only 2 shorts each. The third series of shorts, Fixin' It with Seuss, premiered on April 21st, 2014, and ran until April 22nd. the series features Seuss fixing various items around the Mystery Shack. The first short, Fixin' It With Seuss Golf Cart, starts off with Wendy informing Seuss that she and Dipper were doing some work with a golf cart and it ended up busted, and they ask for Seuss' help so they can finish their stunt, which is attempting to jump Stan's car. Seuss agrees to help. The trio is then seen outside, wearing special outfits for the occasion. Seuss shows off the Awesomeometer, which Dipper and Wendy would rate from 1 to 10. Seuss figures that the cart's problem is with the fuel injector, which he fixes. The engine starts, and Seuss gets excited. After he is done, Seuss shows off the cart, now colored and nitrous boosted. Thrilled, the trio begins to drive the cart towards the stunt. The trio clear the stunt, and Dipper and Wendy give the Awesomeometer a 10 out of 10. However, they end up going too fast over the ramp and wind up crashing into the Mystery Shack's roof. Stan then shouts at Seuss, demanding him to fix the roof. The second short, Fixin' It With Seuss Cuckoo Clock, starts with Seuss showing off a broken cuckoo clock that Stan told him he broke by accident. Although, in reality, he hit it repeatedly with a bat on purpose because it wouldn't stop cuckooing. After poorly repairing the clock, Seuss decides to add decorations. Mabel walks in and suggests leopard print, while Seuss adds a second home so the cuckoo can live in style. This goes on with them adding more and more weird and cool stuff, so when they show it to Stan, the clock is barely recognizable and doesn't work at all. However, Stan gives them a 10 out of 10 rating anyway, because it doesn't make an annoying cuckoo noise anymore. The fourth series of shorts, aptly titled TV Shorts, premiered on April 23, 2014, and ran until April 24, 2014. TV Shorts 1 features Mabel sitting down to watch Gravity Falls public access TV. First, we see a commercial for the Mystery Shack hosted by Stan. He introduces the viewer at home to the Mystery Shack and makes use of green screen as he does, albeit very badly. Among the astounding and bizarre images he showcases is a brain in a jar, the singing salmon, and a photo of himself shaving his back. At the end, Stan sits at his desk and tells viewers to come down to the Mystery Shack, where the real mystery is whether you'll make it out alive. The channel then changes to Seuss Says Some Words. Seuss is painting the Mystery Shack green when he turns and ponders to the audience. If you accidentally eat the prize inside your cereal, does that make you a specially marked box? The channel changes again to a commercial for a new show called Lil Gideon's Big House. Lil Gideon welcomes viewers at home from behind a glass panel and says that even though he's currently incarcerated, he's turning his life around by turning the prisoners' lives around. The commercial showcases clips of Gideon giving therapy, encouraging creativity, and complimenting prisoners on their muscles. Gideon tells viewers the show airs on weekdays at 6 until he gets out. Another prisoner, Ghost Eyes, threatens viewers, saying they better listen to Gideon as he punches open the glass. The prison alarm sounds and the two panic and make a run for it. The screen cuts to a technical difficulties message as Bud Gleeful's voiceover says the show will return as soon as they contain the riot. Mabel then turns off the TV, saying, "It's always worse than you remember." TV Shorts 2 starts with Grunkle Stan watching Gravity Falls public access TV. When he first turns on the TV, "Why You Actin' So Cray Cray" is returning from a commercial break. Sassika, the host, walks up to a frantic-looking woman wearing a bridal gown who is continuously eating a whole roasted chicken. Sassika says her catchphrase, "You actin' cray cray," and moves on to the next woman. The second woman, with her eye twitching, has just sculpted out the words "Love Me" in the bark of a tree using a chainsaw. Sassika says her catchphrase and moves on to the last guest. The last guest is Lazy Susan, who is simply sitting on a couch surrounded by cats all dressed up in clothes. Sassika looks bewildered and turns to the audience, who tell her to say her catchphrase, which she refuses to say on principle. The channel then changes to Teens Talk, a PSA hosted by Sheriff Blubbs and Deputy Derlin. The two pretend to be teenagers in the Gravity Falls High School gymnasium. Derlin, dressed up as a teenage girl named Stacy, proposes that the teens go drink expired apple juice and then kiss each other. The other teens react with shock. Blubbs, as himself, freeze frames and appears, telling the viewing audience at home that they can avoid peer pressure by saying the simple words, no, no, bibbity bop kazow, I can't be pressured, no way, no how. Stacy sees the error of her ways and she and Tom Tom, another teenager played by Blubs, hug. Derlin then notices that their police uniforms are being stolen by Lee and Nate. Blubs and Derlin get on the toy Jeep Stacy had made her original entrance in, and the two officers slowly give chase. The channel changes once more to an episode of Duck-tective. The constable bursts in, announcing that Duck-tective's old partner, Steve the Penguin, is alive. Steve is later seen helping Duck-tective apprehend a criminal by barfing up a fish on which the thief trips. Duck-tective and Steve share a bird-based joke, but exclude the constable by tersely replying that only the birds can make avian-based jokes. The constable is disappointed at being left out of their camaraderie, and his bitterness comes through when he makes a scathing remark about Steve's inability to fly. Offended, Steve sobs and swims across the lake. Duck-tective follows after him and responds to the constable's pleas by quacking, "Just call me Duck now," as he discards his hat. After being dejected for a few moments, the constable throws breadcrumbs into the lake, and Duck-tective returns to peck at them like a normal duck. The short ends when Grunkle Stan turns off the television, saying, "Yeesh, that's enough of that, stupid duck." The fifth and final series of shorts, Mabel's Scrapbook, premiered on June 2nd, 2014, and finished airing that same day. The first short, Mabel's Scrapbook, Heist Movie, has Mabel recounting the Pines family's elaborate plan to break into a movie theater after they are banned by Thompson, who happens to be the manager. The second and final short, Mabel's Scrapbook, Petting Zoo, has Mabel recalling the time that she, Dipper, Stan, Seuss, and Wendy visited a petting zoo. The way they decided to ratchet up the stakes in Season 2 was by starting to throw wrenches in the characters' relationships, something that could potentially destroy those relationships. Creative director and writer Michael Rianda left after Season 1, and Alex almost left with him, but he stuck it out and knew right away that this would be the final season of the show. Michael Rianda would stay on as a creative consultant for this final season. By the time Carpet Diem had aired, there was already a theory on the internet that Stan had a twin brother. So if people had already figured it out, it was a question as to when to reveal that on the show. They had talked about doing it right away in the first episode of this season, and just have the family fall into the portal and meet Ford. But Alex decided to do it midway through the season because he wanted to give enough time for the anticipation to build, but also give enough time for the audience to get to know Ford before the finale. Another status quo change that Alex wanted to implement this season was to have Stan tag along on the adventures more. With all that being said, let's jump into Season 2, Episode 1, Scarioki.
Shrouded by mystery.
It's all led up to this.
Wrapped in enigma.
My greatest achievement.
And riddled with riddles.
Probably should have worn pants.
Gravity Falls is back.
Stay calm. I've been training for this moment my whole life.
Disney XD on Disney Channel presents the return of Gravity Falls.
Welcome to your dreams.
With the Season 2 premiere.
There's something huge going on right under our noses.
New secrets to expose.
You didn't see nothing.
New clues to unravel.
Lord Mystery Ham is on the case.
New questions to answer.
Who's got one good eye and one good pie?
Don't miss the Season 2 premiere of Gravity Falls, Friday at 9 on Disney Channel.
After the little Gideon incident, the Pines family tries to get things back to normal, so they decide to throw a party at the Mystery Shack. Unfortunately, zombies crash the party. The crew wanted to establish right away what the season was about. Dipper mentions summer is halfway over, and the government shows up at the Mystery Shack. This helped establish the tone of the season and where we were heading going forward into the season. Alex had the idea that maybe Dipper wanted to be a government agent, and that at some point he was offered the choice to become a junior government agent. But Alex realized that it would be more powerful if it was Ford that offered him a life-changing opportunity once the summer was over. There were many different versions of this story. Are the agents the conflict? What's the monster? Alex had an issue with the monster being straight-up zombies, as he never wanted to just do a regular monster. He always wanted the monster to have a twist. And the only thing that he could think of was to defeat them using karaoke. Additionally, adding blacklight ink to the journal was an attempt to add more layers to the mystery this season. Into the Bunker.
Disney Channel's night of premieres is weird as
Crazy wall things happening.
and is all new. It's Disney XD on Disney Channel. You gotta see this with your own eyes. All new Gravity Falls. Tonight, starting at 8 on Disney Channel.
Dipper's secret journal pages lead him and the gang to the author's hidden bunker where they find themselves face to face with a mysterious figure who turns out to be a shapeshifter. When Season 2 was greenlit, the crew formed a sort of brain trust, and knowing that this would be their last season, asked themselves what things they had always wanted to do on the show. Alex Hirsch almost immediately chimed in that he wanted to do a homage to John Carpenter's The Thing. After fan reception to the first season's Dipper-Wendy arc, the writers made the choice to get that story out of the way so that Wendy could then go on adventures with the rest of the cast, and Dipper could deal with inevitable heartbreak sooner rather than later. They also wanted this to be a standout episode for Wendy. This episode went through a lot of script changes. The cold open was the last thing added. They had an idea to make the bunker connect to Stan's portal room, but it proved too difficult to figure out a way to make it work. The pose of Dipper that the shapeshifter dies on is the exact pose Dipper makes in Northwest Mansion Mystery as he's turning into wood. We'll go back to this later once we get to that episode. The Golf War.
Mabel versus Pacifica.
Midnight. I'll be here.
Go to the golf course after dark, you say? I don't know. We'd have to break in and... Just kidding, let's break in!
Versus these freaky little ball people.
We control the ball! We are the ball masters, says I!
Grab your putter.
Knock it dead, kid.
For an underground mini golf melee.
Enjoy second place.
Brand new Gravity Falls. Next Monday night at 9 on Disney XD.
That was badonkulous.
Mabel challenges Pacifica to a miniature golf course, but things get out of hand when some locals offer their help. This episode came from Alex's love of mini-golf. In Season 1, Alex and Michael Rianda thought that Pacifica was the worst character they'd ever created. So one thing Alex wanted to do this season was to humanize her more and flesh out her character. Chris Parnell did the voice of Pacifica's father for one line in Irrational Treasure, but Alex knew he would become more of a character and wanted to bring somebody new into the cast, so Nathan Fillion took over the role for Season 2 starting with this episode. The Lilliputians originally had a mini-golf cow that they milked. Sock Opera.
We're close to something big here. I can feel it.
To crack this code.
There is literally nothing that can distract us from... Did you hear that?
Hey, let's have a puppet show instead.
What?
Not even gonna ask.
Get socked.
Wrong password. Wrong.
Go googly-eyed.
I'm puppet crazy.
And take a whiff.
But you said you were gonna help me today.
Well, I can help you with tickles.
A freshly laundered all-new Gravity Falls. Next Monday night at 9 on Disney XD.
Becoming infatuated with a local puppeteer, Mabel decides to put on a sock puppet opera. However, things go awry when Dipper asks Bill for help. The crew knew that there was going to be a mysterious laptop, and they wanted to do an episode with the kids investigating said laptop. They had an idea to connect the laptop to McGucket somehow and go on an adventure underwater in a submarine. That later helped form the idea for The Blind Eye.
There's a lot of stories that were kind of planned out or something that was on a wish list of something we'd always kind of wanted to do and maybe there was a big plan for. And then there's other episodes that really just come out of the improvisation process of just like, we have a space on the calendar, we need to come up with something.
Yeah.
All we really knew going into this, and please correct me if I'm remembering wrong, but my recollection of the early days of this story was we were coming off the heels of Bunker and we had this idea that there was going to be a laptop, and we knew there needed to be some episode investigating that.
Yeah.
I think that was the first thread we pulled.
Yeah. And it was like just having the kids look through a laptop would be boring.
Pretty boring.
So we
Yeah.
were like, okay, we need to make an obstacle, make it like high stakes obstacle in order to get them to access this precious information, and also like not be stuck in the beginning of the season being like, oh well, here are all of the author's Word documents including like his identity.
Right. Well, we needed to one of our mission statements for season 2 was season 1. I actually remember early on, me and Michael Rianda had a whiteboard that said season 1, season fun. Season 2, season continuity. And our what we imagined was we were going to really try to thread the needle on, like, there is an ongoing mystery, and that means you need more clues, you need more misdirects, red herrings, you need to step it out. And as we were working on all these stories, we were trying to find ways to connect them. So we knew Bunker's going to end with finding this laptop. The laptop potentially was going to lead to a story. Do you remember this? We considered this episode where it was going to be McGucket going in a submarine underwater.
Yeah,
you had worked on that one, right?
This was that was like part of Society for the Blind.
Yeah,
right. Yeah, that's when we were trying to crack that.
And that didn't work out.
No,
it didn't work out underwater.
We were trying to. It was like, okay, we're going to use this laptop to go on an adventure, and it's maybe going to be a McGucket thing, and maybe go underwater, and then that it wasn't quite connecting, and then we figured out Blind Eye, but this didn't lead to that, so we were like, okay, this episode, ultimately, we're going to use this idea of the laptop as a way to start the adventure and as a way to create stakes for Dipper, but not really as being what the story is about.
Right.
The fans were clamoring for more Bill, so the crew decided to give him another episode, and Alex thought that Bill possessing Dipper was a great idea. They explored other options for the big bad, as they still hadn't settled on one yet, but nothing seemed bigger or funner than Bill. One of Alex's rules for Bill is that every time he shows up, he almost immediately do something unexpected that you don't like. Always be on edge when Bill arrives. Seuss and the Real Girl.
What is this living nightmare?
It's a brand new Gravity Falls.
Oh, I gotta hide.
What's Seuss gotten into?
It's the first time he's missed work ever.
What's gotten into Seuss?
I ate the decorational bamboo in a Chinese restaurant. Like a big old panda.
Watch a cray-cray new Gravity Falls. Monday night at 8:30 on Disney XD.
Your face is good. I'm a Seuss.
Seuss needs to find a date to his cousin Reggie's engagement party, so he turns to a dating simulator game to help him talk to girls. The crew wanted to do a Seuss episode this season. They also wanted to learn about his home life and possibly give him a girlfriend. Alex also wanted a reason to bring back Paul Robertson, the pixel animator who had done work on the episode Fight Fighters. The writers loved the idea of going to a Chuck E. Cheese type restaurant and have it turn into a horror type thing, because a haunted pizzeria with creepy animatronics hadn't really been done before. But then a little video game called Five Nights at Freddy's came out, which featured creepy animatronics at a Chuck E. Cheese style pizzeria. It just happens that the Gravity Falls crew kinda had the idea first.
We really love this idea of going to Chuck E. Cheese and this idea of turning that into a horror thing. The crazy thing is, I remember being in the writer's room and saying, like, whoa, evil possessed animatronics. I don't think I've ever seen that done before. And like, as we were writing this episode, a video game called Five Nights at Freddy's was like being created, which has become this huge like video game cultural phenomenon among certain circles, this horror game series. They've made like 10 of them now about possessed animatronics from TGI or from Chuck E. Cheese. But like, this was just a parallel thought. It was the same reference. Like, I always thought Showbiz Pizza creatures were terrifying, and I wanted to do
It was
an episode
crazy
of that.
because the episode was conceived about a year before Five Nights at Freddy took off. And so, like, the insinuation, like, everybody was like, oh, this is an homage. We're like, no. This is not
an homage. We just had the same idea, at a different moment.
They wanted to give Seuss an arc similar to Dipper's arc in Fight Fighters, where the character has a real-life problem they need to overcome, so they turn to a video game for potential help with that problem. There was a version of the script where Melody was essentially just a female Seuss, but they decided to make her more of her own character. Alex regrets not being able to flesh out Giffany's character just a bit more. The original ending for Giffany was that she gets zapped into another game and gets together with Rumble McSkirmish. But the ending with Stan and Goldie going to Vegas was so funny that they opted to go with that ending instead. However, in the Real Life Journal 3 book, it's confirmed that Giffany did end up with Rumble. The USB drive scene in the episode when Giffany attacks Seuss was originally a needle, but it was deemed too terrifying, so it was changed. Little Gift Shop of Horrors.
Want to hear the creepiest secret in Gravity Falls? Okay, come close. Come real close. Trick job! Ah! Here's a treat. You get a spooky, special Halloween-flavored Gravity Falls. Brand new Monday, October 6th on Disney XD.
A treasure trove of horror stories. Stan gets cursed by a witch, Waddles becomes smart, and Mabel faces her fear of claymation. This episode was originally called Tales to Sell My Merchandise, but it had to be changed at the last minute. One of the original ideas for this episode was an idea where Wendy got a tattoo and might have become the tattoo at one point. Alex wanted to do a living tattoo episode where Wendy learns a lesson about tattoos, but with Wendy being difficult to write for, it was hard finding the depth to it. So when they couldn't crack it, they decided to do the hand story that made it into the final episode. Something Alex always wanted to see in the series was the kids fighting 100 hands, so he urged the crew to figure something out. There was a drawing someone in the crew did of the hand witch riding a giant hand like a carriage where the fingers were horses, but they weren't able to fit it into the episode. Alex did a sketch on a napkin of Waddles in a homemade machine if he got smart. He then knew they needed to figure out that story. Alex asked Neil deGrasse Tyson 3 to 4 separate times over several months about being on the show after he kept saying no. He finally agreed. Smart Waddles was originally voiced by radio host Jad Abumrad, but Alex didn't think the voice fit just right, which led to him asking Neil deGrasse Tyson to do the voice. The crew had always wanted to do a stop-motion episode with Alex himself being a huge Harryhausen fan, but they couldn't justify doing a whole episode in stop-motion. The team reached out to Stupid Buddy Studios to do the stop-motion animation, but when Disney got the quote back, they deemed that it was too expensive. So Alex asked Stupid Buddy how much the animation would cost per frame, and single-handedly counted the frames of stop-motion himself, and did the math himself so that they could afford it. They wanted a big stop-motion battle, but couldn't afford it. Stan originally shot Gumby Suze with a shotgun, but that was removed. Society of the Blind Eye.
Who wrote the journals? Stan, Gideon, McGucket, these guys in robes, Dipper from the future, Mabel? Haha, it's not Mabel. Maybe it's Mabel. A Gravity Falls Moment of Truth. Brand new Monday, October 27th on Disney XD.
The kids and Old Man McGucket discover a secret society within Gravity Falls. As mentioned earlier, in the cryptogram at the end of Gideon Rises, you get the phrase, "Search for the blind eye." But when the crew did that episode, Alex had no idea what that message meant. He just thought it sounded really cool. When they realized they were getting a second season, they had to figure out a way to pay off the random phrase. Alex wanted to do a Secret Society episode. The crew also wanted to add depth and layers to McGucket's character, so they figured what if he doesn't remember anything? And that led to the crew deciding that the society was a society of memory erasers. Alex wanted to do a fake out with McGucket being the writer. The Secret Society was originally in an abandoned video store, which was part videotape factory where they made the tapes. There would have been a videotape of a young McGucket. But after reading the first draft, Alex thought it felt too silly for a big serious mystery show, so they changed it to the History Museum. When fans started to get wise to the fact that Stan had a twin brother and started realizing that he was the author, Alex leaked a screenshot of McGucket as the writer to create a red herring to hopefully lead the fans away from the trail.
Halfway into the season, maybe, somebody had cracked the theory that Stan had a twin brother. And Alex had seen this and was passing on, somebody's Tumblr was like, here's the big theory, I think that Stan has a twin brother. And Alex was like, oh, no, we're going to nip this in the bud. It was like all hands on deck. It was a big red alert and everybody came out of their offices. And he's like, okay, here's what we need to do. We need to figure out a counter narrative and we have to get it out there and we're going to leak it. We're going to pretend like it was somebody who's just walking through the halls. And so he had Joe Pitt draw up a picture of Old Man McGucket with 6 fingers on his hands.
Phil Rinda had designed McGucket with a cast on, and that was always kind of a question. It's like, where did he get the cast? What's that story? You know, how did he break his arm? Why is it always broken?
So we just made a still of it, and then we put it on one of the editor's TVs in the editing bay.
Put a fake time code stamp on it, and did kind of a hidden camera kind of photo of it. And then Alex created a fake Reddit account and threw it up on the internet. And I think he let it sit there for maybe an hour or 2 or maybe a day, I don't know. Took it down and really buried it, but it got spread throughout the internet, and all of a sudden the internet now believes that. They were like, okay, thank God. Now they believe it's McGucket. Okay, they're off the scent.
Who puts forth that kind of effort for this thing? But it actually, I mean, that's part of it. There's this whole ocean of people that were thirsty for that kind of stuff, and it was just another part of all these different fun things that Gravity Falls did for the fans.
Alex wanted McGucket to be the hero of this episode. Alex at one point wanted Jack McBrayer to voice young McGucket, but they weren't able to get a hold of him. Blendon's Game.
Mini Zeus. Giant time, baby.
Is this a reality show?
No, it's a future Gravity Falls.
This is even cooler than I imagined.
Brand new Monday, November 10th on Disney XD.
Dipper and Mabel try to throw a surprise birthday party for Seuss, but things don't go as planned when Blendon Blandon returns to get revenge on the twins. This was one of the hardest episodes to make this season because it was hard to balance a light and fun adventure with Seuss's tragic backstory. There was a scene in the original draft where a young Seuss was waiting on the curb for his dad, but he never came. Michael Rienda deemed it to be the saddest thing ever and told the crew that they couldn't put it on TV.
We were trying to do this like intense emotional thing with it too, like balance this really light, fun, kind of exciting episode against the tragedy of Seuss's backstory and his father, and it's hard to marry those things and kind of like thread that.
To find the middle ground. I remember there was a draft that Mike Rianda read, and like there was a scene where like little Seuss was waiting on the curb for his dad, and he was like, "You cannot put this scene on television. This is the saddest thing. This is so depressing that it crosses the nexus from like heartbreaking to like this is violence against the audience."
Yeah, this is damage. This is damaging.
There was a different idea Alex had for this episode since he felt that he gave the crew an impossible task with this episode. Blendon wants to get revenge on the kids, so he sends them all 10 years into the past. And while they are 10 years in the past working together to get back to the present, Dipper and Mabel accidentally screw up Seuss meeting Stan. And as a result, Seuss never becomes a member of the Mystery Shack, so they have to fix it. Jeff Rowe had a draft of that story ready in 48 hours, but Jeff had such attachment to the original version, he stuck with it and made it work. Alex thought that this story was so impossible and uncrackable that he suggested the alternate story.
Do we tell them about the secret alternate version of this episode?
Yeah,
sure. That's what this is for.
Because this was such a challenge. I remember I read one of the very first drafts of this script, and it was so funny. But it was one of these things where we were spending a lot of time during Globnar and a lot of time in laser tag, and we're trying to thread the needle of this emotional story. And there's so many pieces that need to fit together that I briefly thought, I think this is an impossible story. I think I gave you an impossible assignment, and I don't want you to see you hang yourself. We need to figure out an episode that's simpler and makes sense. So we came up with a totally different story that involved, it was basically the concept was Blendon's revenge. Blendon has come back, he wants to get revenge on the kids, but he screws up, sends them all together 10 years in the past, and that while they're 10 years in the past, they spend the whole episode working together to try to get back to the present, and Dipper and Mabel observe, it's sort of like Back to the Future, they screw up Seuss meeting Stan. And as a result, Seuss is never going to become a member of the Mystery Shack. They've got this thing that tracks the butterfly effect that shows Seuss's life, right? And so they have to repair Seuss's future while also getting back to the present, while also undoing this thing with Blendon. And Jeff, we came with this story was as a group, we were just like, how about this instead?
Yeah.
Jeff, figure it out. And how quickly did you write a draft of that story, Jeff?
It was 48 hours, I think. It was like really, I mean, I had a rock solid outline. Like you had the story structure all figured out and you gave me an outline. So really I was just like executing a blueprint, but it was like, didn't sleep for 48 hours, wrote it. We did a table draft read of it, and it was like this triumphant, like, we did it! We wrote an entirely new episode so quick. Oh man, we're heroes.
Not we, Jeff. Jeff's a hero. Jeff got like a standing ovation. And Josh Weinstein, who's like a classic Simpsons writer and knows comedy, like said sincerely, like, I've worked with so many amazing writers in my career. I don't know a single person who could have done this thing you did. Like, it was amazing.
People were very nice about it. And then cut to like 2 more weeks of like crying and heartbreak and just like we're going back to the original episode and everything.
You wanted to go back to the original.
Yeah. I had this weird attachment to the character story in this, like the whole thing about like Seuss and his dad, and I was like, that's really meaty. We got to do that, and we got to make people cry. And it was like, I think I was like very short-sighted about it.
I mean, I don't think you were, because like looking back on that alternate story, it was clear and it was fun, but like this was really hard. So hard that I thought it was uncrackable, and that's why I suggested an alternate. But you felt that this had a greater opportunity for an emotional payoff. And I've seen so many people say online and in comments on Twitter, even in person one time at a convention, like say like, that idea that you choose family, something you create over the course of your life, and that if that somebody earns being your family, that the Mystery Shack, these kids and Stan, they're Seuss's family, and that he's happy about that, is something people can use, and we never would have gotten there if we had done that other story.
The Love God.
Lick that sponge! Lick that sponge! Oh, Mabel takes on a challenge so challenging.
You know what Robbie is? A new girl.
So horrifying.
Hey! Nobody in the Pine family is welcome here.
She'll need help from this magical creature.
Woo! Kaboom! Match me! Let's get weird!
With just some squirrels as payment.
It's a touching new Gravity Falls. Part of Thanksgiving week next Wednesday night at 8 on Disney XD.
What the H?
Mabel decides to play matchmaker around town, but takes things a bit too far when she steals a love potion from a real love god. This episode came from when they were planning out the final season of the show. Alex realized that Robbie didn't really get an ending. He's a character that literally wears his pain, so Alex wanted to give him a happy ending. They wanted to have Mabel match up Robbie with someone and thought that these two characters, sort of polar opposites of the other, would be fun to see interact with one another. They needed a magical element for the episode, so they came up with love potions that would eventually lead them to bringing in a Cupid-like character. Alex knew from the beginning of the series production that Robbie had really nice parents, and that Robbie was just playing up his pain and agony, and in reality, didn't really have a problem. In the background of Robbie's room, there's an anime drawing of Robbie and Wendy that Robbie drew himself. Alex imagined that Robbie and Wendy met when they were younger, and that he's been pining after her for all these years. Josh Weinstein of Simpsons fame helped write this episode, and joined the writing team for the rest of the series from here on out. Northwest Mansion Mystery. Pacifica enlists Dipper's help to get rid of a ghost at her family's mansion. This episode was improvised at the last moment because the crew felt that the show needed a scary ghost mystery episode. There was an earlier draft that was more about the mystery with a noir theme, but it wasn't really working. The crew liked the idea that the journal would be useless in this situation. Pacifica wearing red gloves was to symbolize that she had blood on her hands. The crew loved the idea of Dipper being outright beaten, and the pose he strikes as he's turning into wood is the same pose the shapeshifter makes as Dipper in the Into the Bunker episode from earlier this season. Not what he seems.
You know Grunkle Stan.
Not just a great uncle.
The greatest uncle.
But
Kids, there's something I shouldn't tell you.
do you really know Grunkle Stan?
Oh no! Target secure. Take the house. We have secured a pig. What did I do that warrants this much arresting? It's happening! The end times!
And the entire world just hiccuped.
You got the wrong guy.
You don't know your uncle at all.
The Gravity Falls you waited for. Monday, March 9th at 8:30 on Disney XD.
After Stan is taken into custody by secret agents, Dipper and Mabel begin to question how much they actually know about their grunkle. The original title of this episode was Stan Returns, which gave away the ending, so Alex changed the title to Not What He Seems at the last moment. From the very beginning of the show, a secret message in the opening credits has said Stan is not what he seems, so the title of the episode is Alex alluding to that hidden message. The goal of this episode was that they wanted the kids to discover Stan's secret, being the portal, and they have to decide for themselves if Stan is a good guy or a bad guy. Do they trust their heart or do they trust their minds? This would also start to form the rift between Dipper and Mabel that we see get bigger as we move through the rest of the series, before ultimately being resolved at the end of the series. In earlier drafts of the script, it was all serious business, with no fun little moments like the twins and Stan hanging out. This moment was added to help show Stan as a caring uncle before putting the twins' trust in him into question later on in the episode. When this episode was first pitched to the Disney executives, they thought it was bad because of the lack of jokes.
I probably feel personally like the strongest episode of the series is Not What He Seems, just because it's such a dramatic episode. Like, we know if we could pull off an episode that dramatic. When we first pitched it to the Disney executives, they thought it was bad because it didn't have a lot of jokes in it. Like, I remember normally when we're pitching our episodes to the executives, we can gauge how good they are by how much people laugh. And people didn't really laugh at that one because it's really tense. So we thought maybe we screwed up. But when the animation came back and we watched it, we're like, oh, it's good that it's tense. Like, it worked.
They were originally crazier ideas for how the twins break into the Mystery Shack, but they were all very complex, so the team just settled on
Grappling hook!
A Tale of Two Stands.
The last episode blew your mind. Now, lean back 50 years for a story a lifetime in the making.
Why did you keep this a secret? What is this? Hi, I'm Steve Bynington.
Read my journals?
Sorry, just got excited there about the journals.
What you think you know, you may not really know.
Hoping all this aligns exactly with my fanfic, Stan. If not, I will be very disappointed.
Brand new Gravity Falls, Monday, July 13th at 8:30 on Disney XD.
After the events of the last episode, Stan must now come to terms with his past and reveal the truth to Dipper and Mabel. We also get a look at Stan and Ford's life growing up. This was a really tough episode to write, and Ford was a very difficult character to figure out. When Alex started the series, he knew that Ford would be everything that Stan isn't. Stan was the loser at life, and his brother would be the winner at life, but they had a hard time nailing down his personality. There was a version of Ford where he was a hippie, a nerdy scientist, and various other takes on the character before they settled on the version we actually got. Ford was designed to bring out the most conflict in the family, someone that could be Dipper's idol, but also double as Stan's rival. There was a version of the script where Ford came out of the portal with a giant monster chasing him and saves the kids from the monster. There was another version where the agents made their way into the basement and Ford immediately subdued them all. There was originally a scene where Ford sees what Stan has done with the shack and is horrified at the gift shop and everything Stan has done with his former home. Some of this stuff made it into the Journal 3 book. There was a version of the flashbacks where Stan and Ford weren't such great friends, and there were tons of ideas to figure out the moment things changed between them. One idea for this was for a woman to come between the two brothers, but it felt hollow and didn't make sense to create a character just to fill the role of girl. Alex convinced Disney to let them extend this episode's runtime to 29 minutes instead of the usual 22 minutes. However, it was very difficult to convince them. Dungeons, dungeons, and more dungeons.
Great Uncle Ford! Need any help with that?
No! I'm sorry, Dipper. On the dark, weird road I travel, I'm afraid you cannot follow. Well, call me for dinner.
He's just got to know.
Don't worry about what's in the basement. My brother is a dangerous know-it-all, and the stuff he's messing with is even worse.
He's just got to know.
But I can show you a little something I brought back.
Is this normal?
Weird Al Yankovic guest stars.
I'm not here to play games.
Brand new Gravity Falls, Monday, August 3rd at 8:30 on Disney XD.
Dipper finds his favorite board game called Dungeons, Dungeons, and More Dungeons, and Great Uncle Ford joins him. When Grunkle Stan accidentally rolls Ford's infinity-sided dice, the characters from the game come to life and capture Dipper and Ford. Meanwhile, Mabel, Grunkle Stan, and Grinda try to watch the Ducktective season finale. The crew wanted a lighter episode after how heavy the last two episodes were. Josh Weinstein wrote the second half of this episode. The crew thought that Stan, Mabel, and Grinda was a fun trio. They had debated adding Candy in as well, but they had too much going on with all the other characters. There was a version of the episode where Stan rolling the perfect 38 was just dumb luck, but the crew knew that Stan wouldn't bet everyone's lives on pure dumb luck. They knew he'd be the guy to have a plan. There was originally a scene where Dipper tells Ford his real name, however, the consensus was that there wasn't really time for it. They also tried to do a similar scene in Dipper and Mabel vs. the Future, before Dipper's real name would ultimately be revealed in the Journal 3 book. The Stanchurian Candidate.
Stan Pines is reckless.
You may know me as that guy who accidentally let all those bees loose in that elementary school a few years back.
Stan Pines is a criminal.
I was gonna shoplift most of this.
Stan Pines has a weird head.
Your head is more ears than face.
Stan Pines, literally the worst choice for mayor of Gravity Falls.
Paid for by the committee to elect Bud Gleeful.
Brand new Gravity Falls, Monday, August 24th at 8:30 on Disney XD.
When Stan decides to run for mayor, Dipper and Mabel must make him a better candidate to increase his chances. The idea of an election episode was something Alex had always wanted to do, and the original idea for the finale of Season 1 was an election between Stan and Gideon, and that Gideon would win and he would be mayor for one episode and impose all these new rules upon the town. But they ended up going a different way with sending him to prison. But when the idea came up again, Alex wanted to have Gideon run for mayor from prison, with Josh Weinstein reportedly telling Alex, "That's literally an episode of The Simpsons that I wrote." But Alex really wanted an election, and at this point in the season, we hadn't seen Gideon at all, so Alex and the team really wanted to check in on Gideon and kind of start to wrap up his character arc. This episode was challenging because they were doing post-production on the first half of the season, and Alex was also trying to plan out the big finale, so this episode was kind of just floating in the middle, so they opted for a fun little election story. There was a version of this episode where Pacifica's dad runs for mayor and summons Bill to possess him to help him run for mayor. But they had already done a Pacifica story and a Bill possession episode, so they didn't want to go back to that well. The Last Mabelcorn.
Do either of you recognize this symbol?
Bill, an evil warning.
You have no dominion in our world!
A magical quest.
I am literally obsessed with unicorn. Are you even looking at the sweater I'm wearing right now?
I hear if you lick a unicorn's neck, it tastes like your favorite flavor.
And a room you never knew existed.
Even your Uncle Stan doesn't know about this place.
On an all-new Gravity Falls.
Mother of mother!
Dream of a dream!
No way.
Monday, September 7th at 8:30 on Disney XD.
Mabel and her friends go on a magical quest to get unicorn hair in order to protect the Mystery Shack from Bill Cipher. Meanwhile, Dipper finds out that Bill and Ford used to be partners and designed the portal together. However, it turned out Bill was tricking him the whole time, so Ford had to shut down the portal. Bill has been waiting for the reactivation ever since, and once he gets his hands on the interdimensional rift created by the portal, it will mean the end of the world. After having story issues with a Wendy-centered episode that originally would have taken this episode's spot, Alex had to write the script for this episode in just 2 days. They were also planning the finale at this time, which they knew was going to be a big apocalypse, and they hadn't started setting that up in any major way, so it was Alex's goal to kind of guide the characters towards the finale for this episode, which is where the cold open, the main plot, and the B-plot with Ford and Dipper comes from. Alex loved the idea of a unicorn that's just a pain, and Alex wanted Mabel to meet an annoying unicorn that she would eventually punch in the face. There hadn't been a Mabel and Friends episode in a while, and Alex wanted Wendy to be a big part of this episode, since this was originally her episode. In A Tale of Two Stans, there was originally an end tag where we see that Bill and Ford know each other, but the writers realized it was too big of a reveal to put in a tag, so it was saved for this episode. The crew thought it was funnier to just suggest the fight against the unicorn. Roadside attraction.
An RV? Camping gear? Are you running from the law again?
Stan Pines, the tourist.
It's the ultimate Oregon road trip adventure.
More like revenge trip.
Stan Pines!
On a vacation.
Mystery Mountain. 5 times the size of the Mystery Shack. And what's worse, she has real attractions.
That's all business.
What I'm doing here is a little secret.
Brand new Gravity Falls.
Time to let the road dogs bark.
That is us. We are the road dogs.
Monday, September 21st at 8 on Disney XD.
Stan brings the kids on a road trip to ruin every other tourist trap in Oregon. Meanwhile, Stan tries to help Dipper get over Wendy. The crew went on a road trip from California to Oregon going to all the tourist traps. Mystery Spot, Confusion Hill, Burrow World. The crew hid Bill Cipher's all throughout the road trip, which fans found almost immediately. The crew wanted an easy episode leading into the finale, and thought that a road trip was a fun idea. The Mystery Mountain is a reference to the trees of mystery in Clement, California. Alex was worried that they had gone a bit too far with the spider transformation. Dipper and Mabel versus the future.
The future is coming for us all, dudes.
An incredible new discovery.
Sometimes the strangest things are right under our noses.
Shut up.
Turns their world upside down.
You are the only one who can help me.
It's okay, Dipper. You should totally go with Grunkle Ford to save the world or whatever.
I'm going through a bad patch, Mabel. We'll talk when I get back.
Question everything on an all-new Gravity Falls.
I'm sorry, I can't take you seriously with that face on your chin.
What face, Dipper?
Monday, October 12th at 8 on Disney XD.
Mabel decides to plan her and Dipper's 13th birthday party. Meanwhile, Ford reveals to Dipper the most surprising secret yet. A giant UFO which, according to Ford, crashed millions of years ago and is buried under the town. It was by using parts of this alien technology that Ford was able to construct the dimensional portal. Bill Cipher, possessing Blendin Blandin, tricks Mabel into handing him the interdimensional rift, which Bill then uses to enter the physical world and open a portal from his own dimension. The end of the world begins. This was another difficult episode to write. Alex never wanted to explain Gravity Falls because the answer to a mystery is never as good as the mystery itself. But he did want to suggest certain things about the origin of the town. So one thing Alex always imagined was that the valley was formed by a giant UFO that had crashed through the mountains. Alex never wanted to do aliens on the show because you can't top aliens and it's just never satisfying. So Alex wanted to give a suggestion of aliens while also making an attempt to maintain the mystery. In addition to the agents possibly offering Dipper a position, it was at one point also an esteemed college of some sort that Dipper had gotten into. But it made more sense for it to be Ford because Ford sees Dipper as someone special like himself. There was a scene where Dipper and Mabel's parents tell Mabel that she can't bring Waddles home with them, but it was cut for time. However, a similar scene was added to the finale. The idea of Mabel overhearing Dipper's conversation with Ford is something that really happened with Alex and his sister Ariel.
This idea of Mabel overhearing Dipper and feeling left out actually came from a real thing that happened between me and my sister. This is a weird anecdote about me and my sister, but we did these kind of like sort of competitive improv games when we were in middle school, like very nerdy. And we did pretty good. Like our team made it to the international competition every year, and there was this high school team.
International.
It was like
around the world.
Regional, state, and then leapt to international because it was a very small, weird thing.
Just go with
this
it.
program.
You mean national?
No, we competed against Japanese kids.
Oh my gosh!
They kicked our butts every year.
Okay, keep going. I'm so sorry.
Like we had a pretty good team, but there was a team above us, the high school team, that was like legendary, that we wanted to be like. And when me and my sister went from junior high school to high school, like this was going to be our last year to do this sort of competitive improv, and I got a call from the high school team saying, hey, guess what? We've already rated your team for like the standout members. We've taken the people from your team that always do good scores, and we're combining the high school team and the middle school team into a super team, and we would like you to be on the high school team. And I was like, what about Ariel? And they're like, well, there's only 7 members per team. And Ariel was listening in on the conversation. And I remember her like bursting into tears because they had basically been like, yeah, we got 2 Hirsches, we only want 1.
That's
and
brutal.
I didn't even blink. I just said, no, I refuse to be on this team.
Alex!
Like, I couldn't. It was just like, this is so messed up. You're breaking this whole thing apart. Like, yeah, it's a great team. Yeah, you guys are awesome, but I'm not going to do this.
You sacrificed your improv future.
I'm not going to do this without Ariel.
That's so sweet.
Like, and I just remember it being this awful moment where some external pressure was telling us, like, oh, you got to choose. You got to make a choice. And it was a very personal thing, and so like that's a big part of this inspiration of like somebody comes in and says like, yeah, you but not you, and what this would do, and that I understand Dipper wanting to do it, but I also understand this feeling of like there's something not right about this whole thing.
Yeah.
There's something,
and there's a bigger picture. What you're sacrificing is
well, and it ended up being the right decision because that high school super team was a lot of egos and immediately fell apart. Like a month into it, like they thought they were going to put together everybody who was like, these are the people who really bring their A game, and like just nobody could get along, and it totally imploded.
Everybody was trying to lead the scene.
Yeah, everyone wanted to be the leader. Exactly.
Originally, Mabel would have made a deal with Bill for one last day of summer, but the writers knew she was too smart at this point in the series to trust Bill. But with Blendin no longer being an enemy and somewhat of an ally instead, she could easily believe that he'd extend the summer for her, having no idea that Bill was possessing him. Alex wanted the episode to end on a serious note, not knowing how long the hiatus would be. Weirdmageddon Part 1.
Will you follow me?
To the ends of the earth.
Good, because that's where we're heading.
The incredible final showdown begins.
It's finally happening! This is bad! Mabel, come in, Mabel! The nachos tricked me!
It's the biggest Gravity Falls ever.
I'll be fine. You go help the others. Come on. Let's do this!
It's not over yet.
So this is how the world ends. Not with a bang, but with a boop boop.
Brand new Gravity Falls, Monday, October 26th at 8 on Disney XD.
The beginning of the end. Bill's own personal apocalypse, Weirdmageddon, has begun. Other titles floated around were Bizarremageddon and Oddpocalypse. Alex Hirsch was really keen on Bizarremageddon, but ended up settling on Weirdmageddon. This episode was known internally and in later airings as XPCVEAOQFOXSO. Alex gave the episode a code title because he knew that if the actual title of the episode leaked out, fans would know the whole show ends in an apocalypse. So the code title was to help prevent Disney from releasing the title early. The crew knew they wanted a multi-part climax so as not to rush the finale, and to give the show as satisfying an ending as possible. There was also discussion about making the finale one long proper movie, but Disney wanted 3 additional episodes to add to the season if they went that route, so they stuck with a 3-part episode format. Alex felt that after Bill had been a loner for so long, he needed a crew of some sort to bounce ideas off of. So that's where his henchmen and friends came from. Alex also wanted to have some kind of mini-boss before the characters got to Bill, so that's where Gideon's part in this episode comes in. The crew drew everything imaginable that they could come up with for a crazy weird apocalypse. The sequence of Dipper and Bill was originally a lot longer. There was a gag where Toby was hiding out in the hollowed out body of an animatronic from Hoo Ha's Jamboree, like a Tauntaun from Star Wars. However, this was cut. Bill making a throne of humans was one of the first ideas the crew had, and it was originally in this part, but they decided to hold it back for the next part as they already had too much crazy stuff going on in this part. Weirdmageddon 2: Escape from Reality.
A world gone weird.
It's 1 o'clock, everyone.
Has only one hope.
We need to grab Mabel and get the heck out of here.
She's at the top of the tallest tower. Mabel's bubble is the most diabolical trap I've ever created.
Guys, if I die, I want to die hugging.
Brand new Gravity Falls, next on Disney XD.
Dipper, Seuss, and Wendy must save Mabel from a strange new world, while Bill and his forces plan their next move. The original title of this episode was Weirdmageddon 2: Mabel Land, but the crew was worried about potential spoilers, so the subtitle was changed last minute to Escape from Reality. There was a version of this episode where the first part takes place in Mabel Land, but the rest of the episode took place in a scrapbook. The idea was that Bill could see that his plan was falling apart, but he needed Dipper and Mabel to hate each other more, so he threw them into a scrapbook full of past bad memories, and they would then possibly team up with their younger selves. But then the crew came up with a courtroom scene, which still included a bit of the scrapbook stuff. Alex wanted Mabel to have a better brother in Mabel Land, so the crew came up with Dippy Fresh, who was based on Kid Vid from the Burger King Kids Club. There was originally a scene where Ford shows up as a figment of Dipper's imagination inside Mabel Land.
Jeff, do you remember? I remember writing out a scene, but I'm not sure if I showed it to anybody, where I was trying to come up with an alt that involved a scene with Ford for what Dipper imagined.
Oh, I don't.
Did I ever show that to the team?
Maybe not.
I never
I
saw
think
that.
I wasn't able to crack it. I had this feeling with the Wendy stuff where I was like, we've gone to the Wendy well a lot. Is that a little bit too much Wendy? At this moment, maybe Dipper's greatest wish is his whole apprenticeship thing. And I tried to write out a scene where like Dipper's like, okay, I need to figure out a way to get Mabel out of here. And then like Ford just skyrockets in, and he's just like, Dipper, I've defeated Weirdmageddon, and Bill is dead, and we need to go and hunt mummies. And Dipper's like, wow, really? And then it's just like hard cuts to them like having finished hunting a bunch of mummies. Like, whoa, that was a long day of mummy hunting. And Dipper's like got a cool scar, and like it's like we're in another television show at this point. And Dipper's like kind of into like their next adventure. Like, let's get our crossbows. Like, there's a bunch of ghosts. And then like something happens where like they go by a school. It's like we've jumped into the future, and Mabel is now in high school or something, and Dipper's like watching her through the fence having fun with friends, and he's like kind of covered in like mummy hunting crap, and like everybody's like, oh, isn't that your brother, the creepy guy who just like hangs out with an old man
and hunts mummies
and just like collects animal parts in like a basement? And Dipper has this like realization like, oh, maybe I don't want to do this apprenticeship. But like I remember like I tried to write this out, and it was one, way too long. 2, kind of crazy how much it broke the believability of the episode. And 3, it also didn't make sense that Bill would allow a world to show the negative side of what Dipper wanted. That was the thing. I was like, Dipper has to see the negative side of this.
Right.
But Mableland would never let Dipper see the negative consequence. So like that was such a mind screw that I couldn't get it together.
Well, I think this is more successful. This shows that he has gotten past it, because he's basically just like, hey, you can be with the girl you want, and he's wise enough to.
Well, no, like ultimately,
yeah.
I don't think I even showed anybody that scene because like I tried it and it didn't work.
Weirdmageddon 3: Take Back the Falls.
Something weird is going on in this town.
One amazing summer reaches the incredible conclusion.
Here we go.
If we band together,
So the mortals are trying to fight back, huh? Adorable!
This was a bad idea.
It all ends
I just wish summer could last forever.
with a 1-hour finale.
we beat him before.
And we'll beat him again!
Gravity Falls premieres Monday, February 15th at 7 on Disney XD.
Ford discovers Bill Cipher's true motives, and the Mystery Shack crew forms a plan to fight back. A final confrontation with Bill leads to the Pines family's ultimate fate and greatest sacrifice. There was talk of a full episode after Weirdmageddon that had nothing to do with Weirdmageddon. What this episode was, I will further elaborate on later on in the video. There was originally supposed to be a side plot where clones 3 and 4 from Double Dipper would return and try to kidnap Dipper so that they could go back home with Mabel instead of him, but it was cut because it was thought that it would be too confusing. There were a few gags that poked fun at the movie Pacific Rim, but they were cut.
One of my favorite things about Seuss is that he is a pop culture savant, and so he's the one who usually hangs a lampshade on obvious references. You know, Seuss talking about like, oh, we have much to discuss about anime, old man McGucket. Like, we felt like the Shack is sort of a character in the show, and if all the characters are fighting back, the Shack being part of that, building this Shacktron would be a really fun, big conclusion. I remember we had a number of gags that more specifically made fun of Pacific Rim in this. Where like it was McGucket's like explaining the thing. He's like, "All right, and the only way the biometric brain machine works is if two twins control it with their minds concurrently." And Dipper and Mabel are like, Why would you build a machine like that? It seems incredibly complicated. He's like, yeah, don't think about it too hard. You'll ruin the whole thing. And then I learned Guillermo del Toro was a big fan, and I felt I was like actually a little grateful that we cut some of the gags that like kind of went hard on Pacific Rim.
Alex teared up while writing the final scene of this episode. Season 2 as a whole has more cryptograms than Season 1, with most episodes featuring several cryptograms. This season also introduced the usage of the Vigneer cipher, which requires a keyword in order to solve. In the case of these ciphers, a keyword is hidden in each episode. Skirioki. On the satellite footage of Gravity Falls that the agents are looking at, there are numbers at the bottom that say, using the combined cipher, it translates to, search for the... On the bottom of Dipper's Big Mysteries board, there is a cryptogram that says, which decodes into, why is Wendy so perfect? On Agent Power's business card, the number translates to, flag. In the Leprechaun's book section, there are two cryptograms. The first is, watch out, and the second is, kill me please. Both are in the Caesar cipher. During the end credits of this episode, there's a cryptogram that reads, once decoded, it reads, welcome back. The keyword whittle is needed to solve this one, and can be found on the wall of Gideon's prison cell. For Season 2, the very end of each episode contains a page that can be put together with the other episodes throughout the season to form one big picture, along with each page containing cryptograms. After being put through all of the ciphers, the page section revealed at the end of this episode translates to, the man downstairs is very clever, and can he hide his plans forever? Into the bunker. Next to the author's hide and spot page, there are several lines of binary code that translate to, put all 6 pieces together. This is in reference to the 6 page pieces needed to put together the Blind Eye Society's image in Dipper's Guide to the Unexplained. In the cryogenic tube section of Journal 3, there is a cipher that translates to, am I me? Is he me? On the following pages, it says, which decodes to ice, ice, baby. During the end credits of this episode, there is a cryptogram that reads, what kind of disaster indeed. The keyword shifter is needed to solve this cryptogram and is located on a barrel in the bunker. The page section revealed at the end of the episode says, improper use of machinery could, and, lead to utter catastrophe. The Golf War. During the end credits of this episode, there's a cryptogram that reads, once decoded, it reads, remember Big Henry. The keyword whatevs is used to solve this one, and is seen on the castle wall after the golf cart passes the giant swinging axes. The page section revealed at the end of the episode says, old man sleeping on the green, and can't help but wonder what he's seen. Sock opera. In Dipper's journal, during a musical montage, there is a cryptogram that reads, using the Atbash cipher, it decodes to pure energy, not skin and bone, rising like the shepherd tone. The shepherd tone is an unnerving artificial sound wave that sounds like it is continually rising, but it never changes pitch. During a Reddit AMA, Bill Cipher mentioned that his favorite song is a rising shepherd tone. A piece of paper in the background titled Codes has written on it. When decoded using the Caesar cipher, they read whittle, shifter, whatevs, and barrow respectively. These codes refer to the keywords needed for the previous 3 episodes, as well as the keyword that will be used in the next episode. During the ending credits of this episode, there is a cryptogram that reads, we've all had some fun tonight, but let's not forget who the real puppet masters are. Reptoids who have infiltrated our government. The keyword needed to solve this is cipher and can be seen in the reflection in the mirror after Bill takes over Dipper's body. The page section revealed at the end of the episode says, no puppet strings can hold me down, so patiently I'll watch this town. Abnormal soon will be the norm. Enjoy the calm before the storm. Seuss and the Real Girl. The binary on the computer screen during Giffany's backstory, which is repeated in the weaknesses box on her target analysis screen, says, which translates to Space Jam 2. During the credits, there is a cryptogram that reads, Anything can hadplin, the second subtitle in the opening scene for Romance Academy 7. The keyword needed to solve this cipher is barrow and can be found on a pizza box in the pizzeria's kitchen. The page section at the end of the episode says, winning hearts by daylight, possessing robots by moonlight. Her emotional baggage is a real fright. She has the one name Giffany. After being put through the combined cipher, this is a reference to the old theme song to Sailor Moon. Little Gift Shop of Horrors. During the ending credits, there is a cryptogram that reads, check out Dr. Waddle's latest book, A Brief History of Oink, 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 Oink. The keyword for this cipher is non-canon and is found on the upper level rail planks in Harry Claymore's home. The page section at the end of the episode says, all animation is black magic after being put through the combined cipher. Society of the Blind Eye. The Journal 3 entry on the Blind Eye has a simple cipher that says, if my suspicions are correct, this is the work of Fiddleford. Does he really have to go to such great lengths to forget? At the end of Old Man McGucket's memories, he says, and forms a triangle over his eye of his fingers. He is actually speaking in Atbash, and when translated, he says, Bill Cipher, triangle, hinting that Bill Cipher may have had something to do with McGucket's past. He will say this again in a few episodes later in A Tale of Two Stands. During the ending credits, there is a cryptogram that reads, using the Vigneer cipher, it translates to, ignorance is bliss, but bliss is boring. The keyword for this cipher is erase, found on the spine of the Triceratops. The page section revealed at the end of the episode says, after using the combined cipher, it translates to Gideon's tantrums, misspelled tattoos, Chandra's rejections, society's views, a fear of witches, a life of regret, These are the things that they try to forget. Each of the forgotten memories corresponds to a different member of the Blind Eye Society, and one ex-Blind Eye, McGucket. Blendon's Game. During the end credits, there is a cryptogram that reads, using the Vigneer cipher, it translates to, "Don't do the time crime if you can't do the time." The keyword is capacitor, found during the cold open on the ticker behind a statue of Time Baby. The page section revealed at the end of the episode says, after using the combined cipher, it translates to, "Join the Time Paradox Avoidance Enforcement Squadron. Great hours, solid benefits. Sign up yesterday." The Love God. The end credits cryptogram reads, when translated using the Vigneer cipher, it translates to, "I eat kids," referencing the Stan hot air balloon after the H and the R fall off. The keyword for this cryptogram is goat and a pig, which can be found on various objects in the scrolling shot of Mabel grabbing a spray can nozzle and putting on the anti-love potion. The key symbol is on a bottle, G and O are on a vase, A is on a flower pot, T is on a curtain, A is in a box of bread, and N is in the box right next to that. D is on a cup, A is in the grass area, P is on a flower pot, I is on the stand where the boxes are, and G is on the side of the same stand. The page section revealed at the end of the episode says, after using the combined cipher, it translates to, "At the play or at the fair, I always see them standing there. Dressed in black, they're on my lawn, but when I turn my head, they're gone." Northwest Mansion Mystery. The end credit cipher reads, when using the Vigneer cipher, it translates to, "Next up on Otbach, did aliens write the Constitution? Crawdads and tiaras. And Florida, the show." The keyword for this cryptogram is cursed, which can be found on every other window on the top floor of the Northwest Mansion. The page section at the end of the episode translates to, "Stan is not what he seems, Stan is not what he seems, Stan is not what he seems," when put through the combined cipher. Not what he seems. In the cold open, a page in Journal 1 on the topic of floating cliffs has a symbol cipher that says, "My compass goes haywire the closer I get to them. Does this mean what I think it does? The answer may be underground." The license plates on the government vehicles all read, using the Caesar cipher, it translates to, "government." The end credit cryptogram reads, "The original mystery twins," referring to Stan and his brother. The keyword for this cryptogram is Stanley Mobile, the license plate on Stan's car. The page section revealed at the end of the episode says, after using the combined cipher, it translates to, 30 years and now he's back, the mystery in the Mystery Shack. A Tale of Two Stans. After young Fiddleford stuck his head through the portal, he says, backwards. Once this Atbash cryptogram is decoded, this reads, "Bill Cipher, triangle." As mentioned earlier, Old Man McGucket previously said this in one of his memories in Society of the Blind Eye. The ending cryptogram is, once decoded, it reads, "A stubborn, tough New Jersey native, Philbrick wasn't too creative. Having twins was not his plan, so he just shrugged and named both Stan." The code at the end can be decoded using the Vigneer cipher and the key Sixer to reveal the message, "Backup's more university, you tried." The key to the cipher can be found on the map in Stan and Ford's room all the way to the right. In the scene where Ford is writing the page on floating cliffs, a symbol code can be seen on the top right corner of the journal, with some parts covered up by his fingers. Once decoded, it reads, "My compass goes haywire the closer I get to them. Does this mean what I think it does? The answer may be underground." This is, of course, a callback to the code seen in the last episode, Not What He Seems. Dungeons, dungeons, and more dungeons. The cryptogram in the end credits is, which after being decoded with the Vigneer key Radmaster, translates to, "Excelso whatever." The key can be seen on the piece of paper on the floor behind Dipper after Ford rolls a 32. The cryptogram in the episode's end page is, which, when decoded using the combined cipher, it reads, "Fun and games are great distractions, but small things can have chain reactions." The Stanchurian candidate. The cryptogram in the end credits is, which, when decoded with the Vignir key working it, translates to, "Get 'em!" The key is found in the upper left corner of a Gravity Falls Gossiper newspaper article. The cryptogram in the episode's end page is, which, when decoded using the combined cipher, reads, "Be wary of whom you belittle. Big problems can start out whittle." The Last Mabelcorn. The cryptogram in the end credits is, which, when decoded with the Vignir key Smindrick, reads, "A simple man with eager ears may trust the whispers that he hears." The key is found on a stump when Candy, Grinda, and Wendy enter the Gnome's Tavern. The cryptogram at the end of the episode is, "In Cypher's game he needs a pawn. Be sure to know which side you're on." When Dipper is looking through the cipher file under Mindscape, there's a cryptogram that reads, once decoded using the author's symbols, it reads black and white. On the stone wall in the cave where Ford first finds mentions of Bill, there is a cryptogram that reads, "It started with bad dreams which became nightmares. I was foolish. I wanted answers. I painted the symbols. I said the words. When gravity falls and the earth becomes sky, fear the beast with just one eye." It's worth noting that on Ford's chalkboards in the episode, you can find hints to solve this cryptogram. Roadside attraction. During the end credits of this episode, there's a cryptogram that reads, once decoded using the Vignir key Doppler, it reads, "Seuss, like a noble golden retriever, eventually found his way homeward and befriended a talking bulldog and sassy cat along the way." The keyword Doppler can be found in the spider webs near the mummies. The cryptogram at the end of the episode reads, once decoded using the combined cipher, it reads, "Carlo McCorkle returned all his flowers. Marilyn divorced him after only 6 hours. Beatrice slapped him for being a cad. Old Goldie's the best girlfriend Stan ever had." Dipper and Mabel versus the future. The symbols inside the UFO that Dipper took a selfie with are written in the extraterrestrial symbol substitution cipher. In black writing, we have probability drive engine, probatorium, blurg bluff and beyond, and used Thatton's half price. In brown writing, we have specimen has escaped, is changing forms. Along one of the pipes in the UFO, a cipher written in the extraterrestrial symbol substitution cipher reads, "Betty and Barney were here." The cryptogram in the episode's credits reads, "Did you miss me?" The key Blue Book can be seen around the crater. The cryptogram at the end of the episode reads, "The prophecy seemed far away, but finally we've reached the day. Give up the past, embrace the strange. Everything you care about will change." Weirdmageddon Part 1. The cryptogram in the episode's credits reads, "It will take 1,000 years for Time Baby's molecules to reconstitute, and when he's back, he's going to be very cranky." The keyword Sil Bifer can be found on a wall. The title card flickers from Gravity Falls to, which, when translated with the Caesar cipher, says Gravity Falls. This also appears in the water tower for a short second where the screen turns static. The cryptogram at the end of the episode reads, once decoded using the combined cipher, it reads, "Game is over and I won. Now it's time to start the fun. I always love corrupting lives. Now let's see which pine survives." Weirdmageddon Part 2. Like the first part, the title theme flickers to show, which again decodes to Gravity Falls. The end credits code reads, Kraz and Zeiler went on to run the legal department at a major children's television network. The keyword Dibbyfresh can be found on the fence behind fake Wendy. At the end credits of the episode, Decodes to, when one gets trapped inside the past, dreams can turn to nightmares fast. Weirdmageddon Part 3. During the end credits of the first half of the episode, there's a cryptogram that reads, using the Vignir cipher, it translates to, Seuss later forced McGucket to watch all 900 hours of Neon Crisis Megabot Boy Revelations. The keyword for this cryptogram is Shacktron, and the letters for this can be found spread among the cans of the brown meat behind Stan. It's worth noting that this cryptogram is not in the full hour-long version of the episode, and only when the episodes are split into parts. The page section revealed at the end of the first half of the episode says, once decoded using the combined cipher, it reads, 10 symbols placed around a wheel, hand in hand they'll bond the seal, but break the chain and pay the cost, the prophecy will all be lost. There's a code on the bus seat that reads, secrets lost and statues found beyond the rusty gates. The Vignir key phrase is hidden deep within the woods, a buried treasure waits. The key and the decoded phrase make up one complete message. What exactly this message implies, I will elaborate on in a later section of the video. Although it's worth noting that the key is not in the episode itself, so fans had to figure it out through lucky guessing. During the ending credits of the second half of the episode, there's a cryptogram that reads, Goodbye Gravity Falls. The keyword for this cryptogram is axolotl, which can be seen on the door frame leading to the living room as the Pines lead Stan into the ruined shack after they defeat Bill. The page section revealed at the end of the episode says, faded pictures bleached by sun, the tale's told, the summer's done. In memories the Pines still play on a sunny summer's day. And that's going to cover it for all of the cryptograms in the series, guys. And now that you have learned every single cryptogram in Gravity Falls, it's time to continue on to the next leg of our journey. During the life of the show, Alex Hirsch was at frequent odds with Disney's Standards and Practices Department. For those unaware, Standards and Practices is a department within a TV network that is tasked with making sure all programs on the network adhere to strict moral, ethical, and legal standards that the network might have in place. For Dipper versus Manliness, there was a big debate about the pain hole.
I think what I loved so much about the pain hole was that we had so many notes being like, please explain what is in the pain hole. And I'd say pain. Yeah. And they'd be like, what is this a reference to? I'd be like, it's a hole in the ground and there's pain inside.
Yeah.
And they'd be like, is there going to be blood? I'm like, it's just pain. And I could tell everyone wanted to cut this joke, but no one could think. They felt that we were crossing a line, but they couldn't put it into words. So we got to keep it.
Well, I also love that then the pain hole becomes whatever the
viewer imagines it to be.
Yeah, exactly.
Summerween probably featured the most network notes for any single episode of the show. The network had a note about the jump scare, worried that it would be too scary. The network also had a problem with the stab tattoo.
Oh, the reason this biker, we call him Bats Biker because it says bats on his tattoo, because it originally said stab. The network had a problem with it, so we just flipped it around and made it good.
There was also some pushback with Stan scaring the trick-or-treaters with his body.
I got a lot of pushback on this, that Stan finally scares them with his disgusting old man body.
No, man, it's horrifying.
And they said you can get away with it if afterwards we show that he had his boxers. We could still have that shot on the channel as long as soon as we cut back to right now when he walks out, he's got his shorts.
Boxers. Absolutely.
Yeah. I was fine with that compromise because we still got to be horrifying for a moment.
And of course, we have the now classic tale of not S&P approved.
It's weird the things you will win and the things you'll lose, and sometimes it makes no sense. We had an episode where they have a Dipper gets a flyer from Wendy for a Halloween party, and it said on it like Halloween party, bottles will be spun, no photos better wind up online, and they're like, bottles will be spun, spin the bottle reference, impossible, never on the Disney Channel. I was like, all right, like you could watch Happy Days and like that wouldn't be offensive. Like, what decade are you guys living in? And they're like, the party is unsupervised, what could happen when they spin the bottle? I'm like, people will kiss each other. I don't know. And they're like, you've got to change that. So like I fought them, and I was watching episodes of like Austin and Ally, like there's got to be a spin the bottle reference. I can call them on. And like finally, like it was after like 5 emails, they were like, we're not budging. We budged before. This is the last straw. So I was like, okay, replace bottles will be spun with not S&P approved. I was just basically being a dick at that point. And they were like, our audience won't understand that reference. I'm like, yeah, but is it like against the rules? And they're like, not S&P approved, has been approved by S&P.
In the deep end, Wendy was originally wearing a 2-piece bathing suit instead of a 1-piece, and the network took big issue with that. In Carpet Diem, the network was confused as to why Mabel and her friends were waking up in a state of disarray.
We got a lot of notes on this scene. Standards and practices were not happy of Mabel and friends waking up in a state of hungover-esque disarray. They kept asking, like, why are they so tired? Why do they seem kind of delirious? And I'm like, because they were up all night eating pizza.
Yeah,
the pizza had glitter on it. You know, there'd be times where it wasn't an adult joke.
Yeah, totally.
And the censors would find one where there wasn't one.
Yeah, well, because that's kind of their job. I mean, that's sort of a thankless job.
They're trained to see enemies in the shadows.
Yeah, because there's no benefit towards letting something go through.
Yeah, they're not incentivized to let us get away with stuff.
Yeah.
When it came to the episode Sock Opera, the crew got censor notes on Mabel Juice.
I remember Maple Juice. We had notes about what like liquids were allowed to be in Maple Juice. There was like no coffee. That was out. No markers. We couldn't put markers.
They were so concerned about that
fear
fictional
that
juice.
someone would try and make maple juice for real. I'm sure somebody has.
Well, actually, that's not true. There's this company that does a food truck at New York Comic Con every year.
Oh, right.
Called like Fiction Foods,
Yeah,
and they have
yeah.
people vote on the fiction food they want to eat the most, and people voted on maple juice. So they had to invent what maple juice would be.
Yeah.
I think it was just like
I can't believe I missed that.
soda with just like an entire bucket's worth of pixie sticks poured in.
Okay,
like
that makes sense. That's not a bad idea.
On June 16th, 2022, Alex Hirsch posted a video full of real emails that he had received from Disney's S&P department, along with his actual responses.
The following are real emails from the Disney TV Standards and Practices Department. Monday, September 9th, 2011, page 31. Please revise poop face as it comes across as a replacement for shit face. Prior use of Mabel saying poop, poop, and butts in the episode Fight Fighters came across as more childlike and not as offensive.
I've never met a human on Earth of any age who would be offended by a cartoon saying the word poop face. Not changing it.
Page 492. It has come to our attention that hoo-ha is a slang term for vagina. Please revise.
It is a proper word meaning excitement or hullabaloo, and that is clearly its meaning here. The context is an owl-themed restaurant called Hoo Ha's Jamboree. Not changing it.
Page 14. Please revise. Chub pup on t-shirt. Chub as a sexual connotation.
This is silly. It's an image of a fat dog. From the context, there's no reason to think chub means anything other than that.
We have ran this phrase up the line, and unfortunately, the concern surrounding it still remains. If you'd like to send me some alternate phrases, I can run those and let you know what becomes of it.
Alternate phrases. Chubby pup. Tub pup. Chubbity pup pup. I can't believe I have to do this.
Page 380. Please revise the action of Blubs putting his arm around Durland. As noted in previous concerns, their affectionate relationship should remain comical versus flirtatious.
Nope. They're buddies. Chill out.
The gesture is approved in this context. Page 50. Please replace G's as the term is considered an abbreviation of Jesus. Page 26. Please revise Holy Christmas as it could be perceived as religiously offensive. Page 6. Please revise Seuss's line about dressing as a giant teddy bear. It may call to mind the people who dress up as stuffed animals as a furry fetish.
Do I even have to respond to this?
Page 11. Please revise Wendy's response, "Aw, crud dang," as crud has an inappropriate slang definition.
How is this my life?
Page 16. S&P is not okay with saying the word Lucifer. Please revise.
I see no reason to change this. The devil isn't real.
Please revise. S&P is concerned we will get complaints about such mentions of Lucifer, Satan, and or devil.
So what if we get a complaint? The current line, scrimshod from the tusks of Lucifer himself, is the kind of stuffy, non-political, old-timey purple prose like you'd see in Moby Dick. It's 100% less offensive to any religion than the Mr. Toad's Wild Ride hell scene in Disneyland. Our usage is patently defensible, and you could respond to a complaint like this. Sir or madam, we respect your religion, but this fanciful public domain language is used in a spooky, Halloween-like context and in no way represents a commentary on any belief system whatsoever. Please eat this Mickey-shaped cookie and enjoy this cute, classic, family-friendly Disney cartoon. Why should we be held hostage to any imaginary knee-jerk career complainer who could conceivably go out of their way to pretend to be offended by this?
We'll review in context. Page 32. The gag with the basketball player throwing the pet chimp through the basketball hoop will most likely be problematic. We would need to run the scene by our Disney animal consultant for acceptability, especially with any primate inclusions. Also, the monkey's name, Salacious Monk, is also problematic for S&P, as the salacious term is inappropriate. Please revise.
This is maybe the dumbest collection of notes I've ever received. Seriously, reread this entire paragraph out loud.
Please revise the text on Tambry's flyer. Bottles will be spun. This implies they are playing Spin the Bottle. We don't want to send the wrong message to our audience.
The message is, teenagers like kissing. How on earth is that the wrong message? And it's on a flyer, we don't even show it. You gotta be kidding me here.
S&P is still uncomfortable with this flyer giving the impression that it is a make-out party.
What's a make-out party and where can I find one? Fine. We'll remove the line, bottles will be spun. Please replace with new line, not S&P approved.
Please omit not S&P approved on the party flyer.
I don't see what the problem with this is.
Not S&P approved has been approved by S&P.
He also included some that weren't in the video, stating that he had thousands of these emails.
Please revise the limerick referencing "There once was a man from Kentucky." S&P is worried that unsavory rhymes could be gleaned from it.
Why? Man from Nantucket is the famous dirty rhyme, which is why I decided to avoid it altogether. To make your lives easier, I made up a totally new one, Man from Kentucky, which has the same lovely syllable structure, but no pre-invented ending. I can't even imagine a logical way to get fuck out of that. What would that even sound like? There once was a man from Kentucky who misspelled the word fuck and got fucky? That doesn't even make sense. More likely would be, there once was a man from Kentucky who spent hours with his pet rubber ducky. The duck got away, it was such a sad day, it turns out Kentucky's unlucky. There. Who's to say how this made-up poem ends? How could anyone complain about something that's only in their heads?
S&P still feels that fucky would come from ducky.
Who should I call to have this conversation personally?
In terms of S&P squashing whole episodes, that never really happened. Most episodes were allowed to go forward with few or no changes. However, the one example of the legal department taking down a whole episode had to do with an episode idea that would have poked fun at religion, which I will elaborate on in the next section of the video. As is commonplace with most shows nowadays, Alex Hirsch and the talented team behind Gravity Falls had a ton of potential storylines and episode ideas that just never happened for one reason or another. Maybe an idea just wasn't working the way they needed it to, or maybe they felt there was a more important story they should be telling. I'm going to be going through all the scrapped episode ideas that we currently know about. During the first season, there was an episode idea where Dipper gets older and becomes an adult due to some sort of magic. However, Alex saw the series as a whole as a coming-of-age story, and felt that this episode would negate the rest of the series, because if Dipper has already grown up once, then what is there to overcome? Another episode idea would have focused on another tourist trap trying to lure Seuss away from the shack. There was another idea where the family goes on a road trip and they get trapped on an infinite road.
And we had another episode that was going to be a road trip episode.
Yeah.
About basically the family goes on a road trip and they get caught on this endless infinity road.
Yeah.
And they wind up in like this diner with all these people that have been trapped on this road throughout history. Yeah, and it's just sort of a Groundhog's Day kind of thing.
Yeah, and there's a ton of cool ideas in both, but they just didn't gel into like full 22-minute episodes.
At Houston Comic Con in 2015, Alex revealed 3 scrapped plots for the series that just never happened.
I mentioned a lot of these sort of rejected episodes. The thing is, often, the sad thing about the rejected episodes is usually they're not that interesting. Like, that's why we rejected them. Like, one episode I mentioned a minute ago was there was going to be an episode where Dipper and Mabel basically saw what was like a double mint gum commercial. And it was like, hey, do you have a twin? Like, eat twin time gum and record yourself doing a commercial and you could win a lifetime supply of this gum. And so they record themselves doing a commercial and they win a trip to the Twinstitute where all the other twins are going to compete, and they realize they're the most boring twins that have ever lived, and they try to gain powers over these twins. That was the thing, we're like, twins are neat, and then we got there, we're like, this is about a gum commercial? What are we doing? Scrapped! There was an episode about the whole Pines family goes camping, and it was sort of about how Grunkle Stan is trying to get the kids away from technology because he thinks it's evil, and the kids are too hyped up on iPhones and stuff these days, and they ended up getting hunted by this headless demon hunter who they stay in his cabin in the woods, and then they turn on the lights and it's all these heads of other hunters that are mounted on the walls. And that turned out to be really creepy, even creepier than we wanted. The episode kind of didn't come together. Pretty much any monster you can name, we've almost done an episode about it. The thing is, I can't tell you all of them because some of them we might still make into episodes, you know what I mean? I can't think if there's any other particularly weird or amazing ones. There was a B story, and just so you guys who aren't familiar with TV writing, so most episodes of TV you have an A story, which is the main plot, and then you have a B story, which is the second plot, like the sort of simpler one. We had a B story that I absolutely loved, where Wendy has basically been taken to task by her dad for always getting into trouble. You know, her dad's this big manly lumberjack, and he's you keep getting into trouble, you keep breaking into places and hanging out with these hoodlums, you're grounded, and she's ticked off. So while she's ticked off, she shoplifts some stuff from the Mystery Shack. And Grunkle Stan has surveillance, and he catches Wendy shoplifting, and he calls her into his office and he's like, Wendy, we gotta talk. I saw you stealing chocolate bars and snow globes from the shack. And she's like, oh, I'm so sorry, Mr. Pines. I know I'm in trouble. You're gonna fire me. He's like, no, you've got a gift. You're the best thief I've ever seen. You and me, I've been waiting my whole life to discover someone who's as good at pickpocket as I am. Don't you realize we could go out there, we could knock down a bank or something. We could do this big time. And she's like, really? He's like, you're not ready yet. So, we go into basically a training montage of Grunkle Stan training Wendy how to be like a small-time crook, and they're, knocking over, the hot dog on a stick at the mall and stuff, and finally she's getting good at it, and she's like, Stan, this stuff is small time, okay? We are going to steal the diamond from the Gravity Falls History Museum. Think about that. We can split the pieces, wear it around our necks, we look like ballers. You're starting to scare me a little bit, Wendy. Even I've never stolen a diamond. Are you crazy? She's like, yeah, I'm crazy. You love it. He's like, I do. Let's steal a diamond. So Wendy and Stan try to steal this diamond, and of course they get caught. And Wendy in particular, Stan screws up. He's too old. He throws out his back. Wendy, you gotta steal it for me. She is able to get through all the layers of security. She's able to knock out Blood to Durlin. She gets the diamond. She's got it. And then, another security guy grabs her, says, Mrs. Corduroy, come with me. They throw her into the Gravity Falls jail. They say, we're gonna call your dad. And she's like, no, my dad, he can't find out about this. And Grunkle Stan shows up. And he's like, hey guys, cops, I actually want to tell you, this girl, she was working for me the whole time. This wasn't her idea. I'm the mastermind. It was my idea to steal the diamond. Take me away. She wishes she could be a master thief like me. They're like, okay, they let her go. They throw him in jail. Wendy's like, why did you do that for me? You're going to have to be here for days. And he says basically that he realized, look, I'm old. I already had a life. You can still make a choice to not be an idiot like me. Okay, you got quick fingers. Use it to play an instrument or something. Stop stealing or else you're gonna get trapped here. Get out of here. And so basically it's like Wendy and Stan bonding, essentially, you know what I mean? And Wendy discovering she has a talent, and that maybe even though her dad is annoying, telling her not to get in trouble, that maybe she can use that same energy for something better. We love this B story, right? It's very sweet, right? Isn't it sweet? I find there's two feels in this crowd. Listening to that story. I mean, the problem with television writing, now I can never do it because you guys all know the ending. But the problem with TV writing is like that episode, like that's only like 9 minutes of story right there. Like our episodes are 21 minutes. We need to have an A story that would kind of mix with it, and every time you shuffle the cards around on the wall, it never really worked. You know what I mean? And so it's still there, half made with a pin in it. You know what I mean? We've got tons of things like that. Every character in the show has some piece of story that we tried, couldn't make it work. So every episode you see is one that just had all the ingredients, you know what I mean, that finally was baked, had the magic, and had the character story, and was 22 minutes. So there are a lot. There are many, many, many more stories like that you've never heard. Luckily, we made some of them.
During a podcast that Alex Hirsch guest starred on with J.G. Quintel, the creator of fan-favorite Cartoon Network series Regular Show, Alex revealed a story idea that would have been aired sometime in the middle of the first season.
For every story you've seen, there's like 10 dead story corpses that like tried and failed. There was an outline that I had in season 1 that was like halfway through the season where it was like it was basically just like a 20-minute parody of The Labyrinth, and they were just like, you're never gonna. It's just like Mabel goes into the. It's not The Labyrinth. It's like The Labyrinth, but the whole thing is just jokes about The Labyrinth, and it's like. It's like a meta labyrinth. Like she rents the labyrinth, and Dipper has seen it a million times, and he's sick of it, and he keeps complaining during the movie. And she's like, "I wish the king of the Groblins would take my brother away, so I can enjoy watching the labyrinth." And then he gets sucked into the labyrinth, and then like this David Bowie guy's like, "If you want to save your brother, you have to go through the maze." And she doesn't want to save her brother. She's just like she wants to hang out with the cool David Bowie guy. And like, meanwhile, Dipper has this B plot where the reason he hates the labyrinth so much is he's scared of puppets, but he's not afraid to admit it. He's like, that movie's stupid, but really he's terrified of puppets, so he's got to get over his puppet fear. And like, I thought it was hilarious. But the executives were like, we don't think anyone's going to appreciate this reference. And it's 20 minutes out of... Well, they were probably right, but wait till season 10. It's just going to be all, like, labyrinth jokes. The show's going to devolve to total shark jumping pop culture.
Sweater Off Dead was an episode that would have been about Mabel finding a sweater at a swap meet that was haunted by the ghost of the old lady who died wearing it. She would then possess Mabel. This would lead to the gang getting trapped inside the Mystery Shack, where they'd have to perform a sweater exorcism on her using knitting needles. While the episode never came to be, Alex Hirsch liked the idea of Mabel being possessed, which led to the idea being used in the Inconvenient scene when Mabel is possessed by the ghost that haunted the Dusk to Dawn. At New York Comic Con 2016, Alex revealed a scrapped episode about Dipper and Mabel selling Stan bobbleheads door to door to Gravity Falls residents after Grunkle Stan orders too many of them. One of the residents interested in buying the bobbleheads is an old lady and mysterious doll collector who wishes to make Dipper and Mabel part of her collection, as she has already done so with Gideon. The twins would then stop her and end up saving Gideon. While the episode was never made, it was planned to make an appearance in the Real Life Journal 3 book as an in-book exclusive story. However, it had to be cut due to the limited number of pages in the book, and the decision to focus more so on using the journal to develop Ford and have him tell more of his stories.
Based on just this image and these, it's like, what's going on there, right?
Oh, is that the Gideon story? I wrote this, and this is my heart ache. This was the one thing I wanted to be in the journal that didn't make it in. But this was a story about Dipper and Mabel are trying to sell really bad merchandise from Stan door to door.
And this was actually an episode concept we had.
It was an episode concept as well.
Grunkle Stan accidentally orders, he's like, oh, I thought I'd get 5 Grunkle Stan bobbleheads, but the website made me order 50,000 Grunkle Stan bobbleheads. I can't get rid of these kids. Go door to door and sell them. Threaten people if you need to. Make them out of my house.
Dipper and Mabel couldn't sell one until they came to this strange old woman, and it turns out she's like a doll collector, so she wants one of the Stan bobbleheads, but she also wants Dipper and Mabel as dolls to put on her shelf.
Yeah, she's like, oh, more precious babies from my collection. And Mabel's like, great, she's gonna buy a lot. And Dipper's like, didn't the precious babies comment freak you out?
And then when they go outside, they see that there's a very, very cute little Gideon doll on her shelf, and it turns out to be, it is little Gideon, and she's captured him already, and that's how Dipper knows what's in store for them. And they battle, and they save little Gideon, and he's still unconscious, and they just leave him on his dad's doorstep.
In a little basket.
Yeah, they think about maybe we should just drown him in the river, but then they decide, no, we'll let him go. And it's fine, you know, let bygones be bygones. And I love that story, but it also turned out to be like, I was like, this is great, la 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 la, I'll keep typing, and it turned out to be like 6 or 8 pages, when most things were like 2 or 4 at the most. I'm like, okay, this is way too long. We've given too much space to this little story that is just my obsession, so it had to go. But I did enjoy writing it.
In April 2021, Michael Rianda posted on Twitter that he had found a treatment for a lost episode of the show where the gang gets superpowers. Essentially, the plot revolved around Seuss making a comic where he, Dipper, Mabel, Stan, and Wendy were a superhero team, and each character would have Seuss-invented superpowers, with Dipper, for example, being called Salad Boy. It's unknown exactly why the episode wasn't made. However, Mike had stated that the episode needed great magic and a great character story to work, and that this pitch was a little thin. But unfortunately, Mike left the show before he could flesh the idea out more. However, the graphic novel Gravity Falls Lost Legends, released in 2018, features a story called Comics Up, which has a part where the characters all get superpowers. So it's entirely possible that this lost pitch could have possibly influenced this story. But this is just speculation and is more than likely a coincidence. Also in 2021, Michael Rianda revealed on Twitter a lost episode planned for Season 2 titled Wendy's on the Road. It would have been heavily inspired by both On the Road and David Lynch films. It involved Wendy having a difficult relationship with her father and going on a road trip with the twins, Seuss, and her friends to avoid thinking about it, only to end up trapped in a creepy diner. Like most Wendy episodes, it simply just never happened. In the commentary for Weirdmageddon 2, Escape from Reality, Alex Hirsch mentioned that there was a concept for an episode in Season 1 that would have involved Mabel becoming overprotective of Waddles.
There was always, Alex, didn't you always want to have an episode where Waddles talked and had like John Hamm's voice and was just like a mature adult?
Well, I mean, we had that, but in the Halloween episode.
We did there was a concept for an episode in Season 1 that Mabel would become protection crazy about. She's got a baby, Waddles, and now she wants to protect it, and she's constantly scared about it getting hurt, and she like covers Waddles in a ball of bubble tape, and she's trying to keep him safe.
Oh, that's right.
And she ends up getting knocked out and has this fantasy sequence where Waddles speaks with John Hamm's voice, and it's like, if you love something, you have to let it live its own life, or something like that. It ended up not becoming an episode, but that we took that piece and we put it in Awakenings, with Neil deGrasse Tyson.
Another potential episode featuring Waddles was planned for Season 2, called Silence of the Hams. The plot would have had Waddles catching a severe illness. Ford would then have an antidote in Journal 2, but it would be revealed that the page was ripped out by Little Gideon. Mabel would then have to visit Gideon in prison in an attempt to get back the antidote.
Oh, okay. I was thinking, was there some kind of thing with Waddles getting sick and like Gideon being in prison? Do you guys remember that episode?
Yeah, that was a Gideon episode. We never were able to fully crack it. But there was an idea that Waddles was sick and Mabel had to get an antidote and she had to go into prison and she had to like infiltrate it to get Gideon's help. Yeah, I mean, for every episode you see, it's standing on the mountain of the corpses of 100 other episodes that we wrote, and we started.
Very dark.
We sort of played with ideas that we never quite resolved.
Another planned episode for Season 2, titled Jimmy Snakes, would have centered on Stan's old biker buddy, Jimmy Snakes, coming to town. Jimmy would have had a curse very similar to Ghost Rider, and it would be revealed that Stan had a biker phase. To help tease this episode, a biker helmet can be seen in the background of the episode's karaoke. However, the episode didn't happen because with Ford being introduced this season, it didn't make much sense for the crew to introduce yet another character. In the last section of the video, I briefly mentioned Disney's legal department canning an episode about religion. You see, Alex Hirsch had always wanted to do an episode called Stanentology. Stan would start the religion as a means to get a tax break, and his holy book would have been a 300-page manual on bribery called The Bribble. However, seeing as how this idea made fun of the Scientology religion, Disney's Standards and Practices Department shut it down immediately. Also earlier in the video, I mentioned that a Wendy-centered episode was scrapped and the last Mabelcorn was made instead. The abandoned episode would have been about Wendy's family and her relationship with her father, Manly Dan. It involved her getting weather-controlling powers, but it simply didn't work and it felt a bit too crazy for the show, so Alex opted to write a whole new episode in 2 days instead. As mentioned in my notes for the finale, the show's crew had also initially planned on an epilogue episode. The episode would follow Dipper and Mabel packing for their trip back home and reminiscing about their time in Gravity Falls the day before they're supposed to leave. Blendin Blandin would then appear and warn them about time anomaly bubbles still floating around the town. Eventually, the twins somehow fall into one and are transported to the first day they arrived in Gravity Falls. They see how unenthused they were about not being there and how much they've grown since then. The idea was eventually just not used.
One of the things we thought of was maybe one way to make it satisfying would be to have a real protracted denouement, right? Like, let's have a full episode's worth of just goodbyes, essentially. And so we planned it was going to be Weird 1, Weird 2, Weird 3, and then some kind of goodbye story.
Right.
And we didn't know what that story would be.
I remember something vaguely about some sort of other time travel, bringing Blendin back because we kind of just lost. He just kind of vamoosed in the middle of this big story.
Well, the challenge was thinking
about
of
maybe
something.
going back to the first day. There was that discussed, like time traveling back to the first day when the kids arrived.
Yeah, the challenge was thinking of a valuable arc, right?
Yeah.
So, like, each episode needs to have, like, a new problem and a new resolution.
Right.
And I was trying to brainstorm what's something that could feel valuable for, like, a final episode after the apocalypse, after Stan's mind has been erased, and he's in the process of getting it back. And the thing, I remember I wrote one out. It was like, it's the last day of school. It's the last day of summer. Dipper and Mabel are packing. They're planning to go home. They're feeling like nostalgic, like they kind of don't want to leave, and Blendin shows up and he explains that there's all these time bubbles left over, these weird anomalies because of all the time business and what Bill has done, and just to watch out and be careful. And that Dipper and Mabel actually accidentally trip into one of these bubbles and are sent back to the very first episode, or an episode
beyond
we haven't seen,
episode.
Beyond the first episode, their first day in Gravity Falls, and somehow this was meant, their character arc was to go from being like a little sad about missing that they're going to leave Gravity Falls to seeing what it was like on the first day when they were scared to be in Gravity Falls. Like, the idea is, like, their first day, they're like, oh, Uncle Stan, he's this weird old man, and we hate living in this house, and, like, we miss our place of comfort back home, and this is a kind of scary new adventure that we don't like.
Right.
And the kids see their own growth and realize, like, oh, the way we felt about going to Gravity Falls, like, we don't think we can handle it, is how we feel about leaving. Like, that feeling of going into a new experience means that something new and exciting is going to happen. You're going to grow. Like, that was the broad idea.
Yeah.
And there was some thought that maybe over the course of that episode, Stan would get his memory back, and something that the kids had done in the past would help him in the present get his memory back. But it just was slippery. It never quite worked. We couldn't quite crack it. I remember the writers had pitched a totally different idea that involved, like, the clones, remember Dipper 3 and 4 coming back? And it was like, oh, how about the final episode is Dipper 3 and 4 knock out Dipper and want to go back in his stead and be Dipper.
Oh my gosh.
And they're like, as always, no lack of great ideas. And funny ideas and interesting ideas, but it never quite made sense. It never quite fit. And while we were struggling with it, we also noticed that this episode, number 3, was almost the length of 2 episodes.
Yeah. And we weren't going to be able to do it justice unless we made it longer.
Right. So the decision was made, okay, we're going to take that sort of 7 minutes worth of denouement from that concept that we never actually wrote, and have it be the end of this episode.
Yeah.
Which I think was a necessary choice because we couldn't cut this story down and we couldn't plump that one up.
Right.
In addition to all the previously mentioned scrapped episodes, there was also one scrapped short in the Mabel's Guide series of shorts. This short was called Mabel's Guide to Smiles.
I basically tried to strip mine my memories of my sister for every specific detail I could get in there. So we did a sticker short because she loved stickers. We did a color short because she loved rainbows. She wanted to have a pet pig. We have a pet pig. She had scrunchies and slap bracelets. We wanted to do those.
Boom! 1,000,000 slap bracelets!
I remember that when we were younger, Ariel, she was always the smiling one, and we wanted to do a short called Mabel's Guide to Smiles, because we did like 5 shorts, and we had to cut Mabel's Guide to Smiles.
Why? What did you do?
It's not that bad. I was just trying to think of, like, okay, when Ariel was very young, we were at some kind of bar or something.
Oh, with the button.
With the button, and we were very young, and there was this really big, tough, kind of Hell's Angels kind of biker type person with this...
It was a woman.
This like really gnarly woman, and she had this button with some kind of swears on it. I don't think we can swear on camera.
Okay.
And Ariel, you were really young,
Yeah.
and you famously walked up to her and said,
I
I
was
like
like,
your button.
I like your button. Because I think it was rainbow, but it had a swear word on it. And it was
like,
rainbow.
so you were so fearless.
Yeah.
So from that idea, we extrapolated the concept from Mabel's Guide to Smiles, which is Mabel's like, I love smiling, and I can make anyone smile, so I'm going to Gravity Falls maximum security prison to cheer up all the convicts. So like Mabel's walking in, like, and everybody's looking at her through the bars, and she's like, I'm gonna make you smile, Killbone. I'm gonna make you smile, Fist Dog or whatever these guys' names were. And like, there was just a lot of scenes of just like convicts, like, you know, they're like making shanks and then like they form them into a smile because Mabel made them smile. We ended up taking all of those convicts and making them Gideon's henchmen in the second season.
Well, then one of them is in a bar, right? When Mabel goes in.
That's true, yeah.
And she sort of does the same thing.
In Headhunters, we have a scene very similar to that.
Hey there, fellow restaurant patron. Bap.
Before we go, there is one final short that I want to touch on. One that, for most of the production of this video, I thought was just a rumor. But as I was wrapping things up, I came across a post on Reddit from 2016 about a convention Alex Hirsch attended in Russia called Big Fest Russia. At this convention, Alex confirmed that one of the ideas for the next Mabel's Guide short was a short called Mabel's Guide to Death, in which her pet caterpillar would get eaten by a bird, and she would then talk about coping with death. The idea was rejected by Disney for being too morbid, and the replacement idea, which would be Mabel's Guide to Smiles, obviously didn't happen either. So it's a shame that neither of these ideas ended up happening. As the credits of the final episode came to a close, fans felt many emotions. Happiness, sadness, and all in between. The journey to get here was fantastic, and the ending was so satisfactory. Alex ended the show how he wanted to end it, with little to no network intrusions. Almost everything had been resolved, and there were almost no lingering pieces. But wait, what's that mysterious Bill Cipher statue? And why does it look real? Well, you see, at the end of the credits of Weirdmageddon Part 3, we see a shot of a Bill Cipher statue in the woods. Along with the image of the statue were the hidden messages that could be found hidden in the final episode. When deciphered, the final message read as follows: "Hidden deep within the woods, a buried treasure waits, secrets lost and statues found, beyond the rusty gates." Once fans decoded this message, speculation ran rampant. Was this a real statue? Where was it? What buried treasure was there to be found? Nobody knew the answer except for Alex Hirsch, and that answer would not be revealed for several months after the series ended. But after speculation had died just a bit and the dust had all settled, Alex posted a tweet on July 20th, 2016. "Are you guys ready?" He then followed that tweet up with another. "Let the games begin. Hashtag FLSKHUKXQW. When deciphered, the hashtag read, hashtag CipherHunt. This tweet was accompanied by an image containing several clues and secret messages, including an image of the Bill Cipher statue. The image also contained a few letters in red instead of black. When the red letters were decoded, they revealed the name of a country: Russia. With that, the hunt was on. But wait, where in Russia? Well, going back to the initial image, it turns out that the diagram on the middle left of the image was an architectural plan of the Kazan Cathedral in St. Petersburg. And it turns out that the middle right of the image showed exactly where the clue was. So later that night on the 20th, the first clue had already been found. The clue found at the Kazan Cathedral decodes to, "Finally, the hunt can begin, so switch your rubles out for yen. Turn left when you're at the shrine's door. When you reach the statue, turn left once more. In the leftmost corner in the back is the info that you lack. A sword and a crescent mark the clue. Cipher's statue's calling you." The clue saying to swap your rubles for yen points to the next clue being in Japan. The exact location? The Kanda Shrine in Tokyo, which Hirsch had visited on his trip to Japan in 2016. Inside the shrine, the back of an emma, which is a small wooden plaque traditionally used to write prayers or wishes, was a scimitar and crescent with an encrypted message. The text on the clue decodes to, "Consider in your quest for truth the hunter of the Fountain of Youth. 400 before his name is written, outside the gate is where it's hidden. Find what's lost to pass the test, from a shrine that's east to a shrine that's west. This clue led to 400 Ponce de Leon Avenue Northeast in Atlanta, Georgia, which is the address of the Urab Shriners Temple. This led fans to find a missing poster for Waddles. However, it was water damaged due to the Georgia rain, making it difficult to read. But fans were able to decipher it and make out what it said. The post contained some information about Waddles, an encrypted message, and a number to call. When the code was decoded, it read, "Across from the stones of the springs, you'll find some peculiar things. Tied to a root is a lone pink key. Dig to find what waits for thee." This would eventually help fans find the 8th clue. But to find the 4th clue, one simply had to call the number on the poster.
Hello, it's Grunkle Stan, and I have a riddle for you. What has 2 legs during the day, 4 legs during the night, and it's red and white? I don't know. I'm no good at these riddles. It's at Ochre Court, all right? The next clue, it's at Ochre Court. It's like a big old building in Rhode Island, and you go up some stairs, and there's gonna be a bunch of pictures of nuns on the wall. You gotta look behind one of the nun pictures. Sister Mary Hilda Miley, real grouch, that nun. Lift up the picture, you'll find the clue behind the nun. All right, that's the whole thing. Don't be careful with the picture. Don't break it. I don't want you to get anyone in trouble. All right, you don't want Grunkle Stan going to jail. Anyway, go to the place, look behind the nun, find the thing, and always look out for mysteries. Is that it? Did I do it? All right.
This leads us to the 4th clue, which was in the Ochre Court building at Salve Regina University in Newport, Rhode Island. Unfortunately, the university disposed of the clue before Cipher Hunt began. Alex Hirsch promised a replacement clue would soon follow and asked people to stay out of the university in the meantime, unless they wanted to invoke the curse of Sister Miley. Later that day, Alex tweeted out Stan's phone number, the same one on the missing poster for Waddles. When called, the number once again played a message from Stan.
A man whose first name is his last. A statue honoring his past. Right behind him, by the sign of his park, a golden head shows light in the dark. I don't know what that means. Glad I don't have to go out there and figure this out. Wonder what's on TV.
This led to the new location of the 4th clue, the Griffith J. Griffith statue at Griffith Park in Los Angeles. A golden Stan head was found at the park, which came with 3 slips of paper and an invisible ink pen to reveal a hidden message. The person who found the clue did their best to trace the writing exactly. When decoded, the text reads, 50 plus 50, that's the city. From one angle, it's quite pretty. You'll find a bow tie and one eye. At his head is a rectangle. Stones by stairs atop the top right angle. The stone with the UV swirl can glow. Find the black pouch that's below. This clue tells us that the next clue is in Century City, Los Angeles. There's a park in the city that, when viewed from overhead, resembles the Eye of Providence. Here, fans along with Alex Hirsch and Dipper's voice actor Jason Ritter found a USB drive with Bill on it. When inserted into a computer, you got the following message.
Howdy, treasure hunters. Grunkle Stan here to tell you about the next clue. Whoa! Who are you?
It is me, Sister Mary Hilda Miley, and I decree that you shall never find the treasure.
Some kind of ghost has flown into the mystery shack here. She's got a ruler in her ghost hand. Ow! Hey!
I am the spirit of seriousness. I hate anything fun. Carbonated beverages, boys and girls holding hands at school dances, and most of all, I hate treasure hunts. Also Knuckles.
Ow! Zeus, get the vacuum cleaner. Yes, sir, Mr. Pines.
No, my one weakness, a creative solution. I'll be back. You'll never find the treasure.
Good job, Zeus. Have a chicken nugget.
To me, this is a raise. Alright, kids, the next clue is a kind of tricky one. You see, this is one that can only be found by someone who is currently in the building it is hidden in. That's right, I'm looking for students at the California State Summer School of the Arts. Only CISA students can find this clue. I don't want anybody else going to CISA, alright? You're not allowed in. Only students there are allowed in. Students, scour the sub-level. You'll know it when you see it. And watch out for Sister Miley's ghost! Seriously.
Aside from telling us that the ghost of Sister Miley from Salve Regina University is out to get us, this message also directed fans to the California State Summer School of the Arts. But with a caveat. Only students could find this clue. The sixth clue would shortly be located in the sub-level of the school's campus in the form of some graffiti. The graffiti showed a drawing of Bill Cipher along with some hex code that, when translated, formed coordinates. The coordinates are located in Piedmont, California, the hometown of Dipper, Mabel, and Alex and his sister Ariel. Going back to the clue from the Waddles missing poster and a map provided by Alex, led fans to a pink key resembling Waddles which had been tied to a stump, in addition to a small treasure chest with a cryptex inside. A cryptex is essentially a small portable vault locked behind a keyword, in this case being a 5-letter keyword. Using the keyword Pines, the cryptex was opened, revealing another key as well as a piece of parchment containing the 7th clue. The clue was as follows. LA has the clue you want, 1825 North Vermont, 27128's the box for thee, don't be puzzled, use the key. This leads to the 8th clue being located at 1825 North Vermont Avenue in Los Angeles, which is where P.O. Box 27128 is located. Fans waited eagerly outside of the post office for the person with the key to the P.O. Box to finally arrive. Jason Ritter was also there hanging with the fans, and series writer Jeff Rowe also stopped by to give away copies of Dipper and Mabel in the Curse of the Time Pirate's Treasure, which hadn't been officially released yet. After an 8-hour drive from Piedmont to LA, the person with the key made it to the post office and used the key to open the P.O. Box. The 8th clue was a bag containing 2,000 puzzle pieces. Also inside the P.O. Box was an envelope with a drawing of Bill that said, "I hope you like puzzles!" in code, along with 37 standbucks that had Philbrick written in invisible ink on the back, an additional standbuck with Philbrick written in code, and some additional fake junk mail. And for those unaware, the word Philbrick is referring to Stan and Ford's father, Philbrick Pines. Fans set to work trying to put the puzzle together, but almost immediately got stuck on it. The group of fans took 2 days, with some taking sleeping shifts and some not sleeping at all, and at the end were only able to assemble enough of the puzzle to figure out what it contained. The puzzle itself was a picture of Bill with a gnome beneath him, along with various symbols from Bill's cryptograms scattered to the sides. After 2 more days, Alex sent 2 images of different sections of the puzzle, while a virtual version of the puzzle was created by a fan. Fans used Photoshop to piece these 2 images together, and then decoded what they can make out. Within a few hours, the puzzle was then digitally solved by a group effort. The code reads corner of Northeast Tillamook and Northeast Rodney. Corner is below the gnome, with the other words being on either side of Bill, albeit flipped 180 degrees. Progress on the puzzle eventually reached the point that a fan was able to guess the location of the next clue before the puzzle was completed. Though the clue was found without completing the puzzle, Alex Hirsch provided incentive to completing both the physical and virtual puzzles by promising that if the fans finished the physical puzzle, he would release the Gravity Falls pilot, which was still considered lost at that point. And furthermore, if the virtual puzzle got finished, he would upload unreleased cutscenes from the show. The physical puzzle was completed on August 1st, and Alex Hirsch showed up upon its completion to sign it, and once again promised that he would release the pilot. As for the next clue, a fan was walking on the corner of Tillamook and Rodney in Portland, Oregon, when he spotted a lawn gnome. This fan had been keeping up with the hunt on Twitter, and using what had been solved of the puzzle at that point, went to the location and picked up the lawn gnome. Underneath it was a Viewmaster slide along with the 9th clue. The clue read, "To the redwoods you must race. If you're confused, you're in the right place. The gift shop is not too far. The password will buy the eyeball jar. The Viewmaster reel featured slides that showed off the area surrounding Confusion Hill in Mendocino County, California. Confusion Hill is a tourist trap similar to the Mystery Shack. This confirms that the next clue is somewhere at Confusion Hill. A fan went to Confusion Hill following the discovery of the slides on the Viewmaster reel. They found a jar of eyeballs behind the register in the gift shop, just like in the show's intro. However, they needed to know a password in order to buy the jar. The password ended up being Philbrick, the name of Stan's father, and the name on the back of Stan box found in the P.O. box with the puzzle. Using this code, the fan was able to retrieve the jar of eyeballs and found the 10th clue on the bottom of it. The clue said, "Where has my grunkle gone? To Stanley Street in Oregon. A telephone pole is where he's at. Why'd he have to bolt like that?" This points to the next clue being located near a pair of telephone poles on Stanley Street in Amity, Oregon. A group of fans went to Stanley Street and found a geocache bolt and then lost it before finding it again. Upon unscrewing it, the group found the 11th clue inside, written double-sided on a narrow slip of paper. The clue reads, "Roger Tofty knows the place, behind a sign buried at the base. Near Pa's Laundry on the hill, here lies the bones of a man named Bill." Roger Tofty is the creator of the Enchanted Forest theme park in Turner, Oregon. In pursuit of the next clue, a family raced to the Enchanted Forest. Locating a sign that read, "Here lie the bones of a man named Bill," the family dug around in the dirt at the base of the sign, but found nothing. It was soon discovered by Alex that someone else had found the clue before the family got to the park and had uploaded a picture of it online. Written as a cryptogram, the clue was scrawled on some ripped paper. Once deciphered, the clue read, "Return to where it all began. The final clue is in your hand. The parchment can be such a tease. The answer is written in the trees." This was it, the 12th and final clue. The next stop was the fabled statue of Bill Cipher. On the back of the final clue, there was a dotted line connected to an X, like a treasure map. This dotted line could be connected to the dotted line located on the initial Cipher Hunt image that Alex had posted. Using the initial image and the final clue combined, fans searched for the statue throughout the West Coast, but came up empty. After several days with no progress being made, and asking the fans if they needed a little bit of help, Alex tweeted out the following hint. "An urban legend arcade game gives the method's correct name. Mathematically the letters hide in branches and knots, no matter the side." The urban legend arcade game line refers to Polybius, a video game urban legend that allegedly was part of a government-run psychology experiment. However, this is just a legend. Using this hint, it turned out that the code needed to solve the clue was a Polybius square, a code that uses pairs of numbers and turns them into letters via a grid, usually of 5x5 spaces, placing the whole alphabet in those spaces, and that may use a keyword to encrypt messages. After some clever cryptoanalysis, fans were able to figure out that the statue's location was likely Reedsport, Oregon. Using the dotted line connected to an X on the back of the final clue, fans were able to find the statue's exact location in Reedsport. Fans raced to the statue to be the first to find it. The statue was first found by Twitter user Shadow_Wolfwind, who tweeted out a photo after they found it. Shortly after, more fans made it to the location, and a treasure chest was found and dug up. The treasure chest contained a bunch of Gravity Falls related items, such as plastic coins and gems, Russian and Japanese currency, a copy of Gravity Falls Journal 3 with special drawings by Alex Hirsch, a blacklight, a plastic crown and a sash that says Mayor of Gravity Falls, a music box with Bill's eye that plays the Gravity Falls theme song, which also contained a slip of paper, a miniature Bill Cipher statue, a framed sketch of the main characters in the statue, and a USB drive. When the blacklight was used on the slip of paper in the music box, the following message was discovered. "Congratulations on finding the Bill Cipher statue, Bill's final resting place. Whosoever finds this treasure is hereby the new mayor of Gravity Falls. So use your title well. Chances are you didn't do this alone, so share the wealth. You are an amazing fan. Your pal, Alex Hirsch." Due to this message, Shadow_Wolfwind changed her username to official GF Mayor, although this is no longer her username nowadays. On the USB drive, there was an audio file of Stan singing "We'll Meet Again" and congratulating the finders of the statue.
We'll meet again. Don't know where, don't know when, but I know we'll meet again some sunny day. Oh, my esophagus. Hey guys, congratulations on finding the mysterious treasure of the statue in the forest. This is it. You reached the end. You really did it. You looked for it and you found it. And, now it's yours. If you were hoping for some kind of like a cash prize, I can't blame you, but the real treasure is the journey and the friends you made along the way. In case you don't have any friends, in which, at least you got some exercise. Anyway, take a picture with the statue. Shake his hand, that's kind of like a prize. And tell everybody how you did it first. And that makes you the best. Also, if other people helped you, give them some of the gold plastic coins. Share the wealth. Anyway, congratulations. I'm Grunkle Stan, and as I always say, no refunds!
Before we wrap the story of the Cipher hunt up, however, we have to tell the tale of Bradley. When the treasure chest was first unearthed, there was a stambuck in the chest that had been signed by someone named Bradley on July 12, 2016, 8 days before the Cipher hunt officially began. It turns out Bradley had come across the statue just walking around in the woods, and having no idea what Gravity Falls was, posted a picture of it on Reddit, hoping someone could help him figure out what the statue was. Somehow, the Mystery of Gravity Falls Twitter account saw this post and immediately contacted Alex Hirsch, who immediately contacted Bradley to remove the image. During a 2022 episode of the Mystery Shack Lookback podcast, Alex Hirsch revealed the full story about what happened with Bradley.
And although at official GF Mayer was the official finder of the statue, apparently the chest was found by a person named Bradley before the hunt even began, because some of the currency was marked, I guess Bradley was here or something, and
Wow.
and the USB drive in the chest included a text document called "Hi," which linked to Bradley's Twitter. So Bradley, kind of a chaos entity here, because
who's like, oh, I solved that. Oh, Cipher Hunt? You guys are still doing Cipher Hunt?
Do you guys want to know the story of Bradley?
What's the story of Bradley?
Regale us.
Because it's never been told or regaled before, but I'm.
This is a Mystery Shack Lookback exclusive.
Oh.
The Tale of Bradley.
So, this whole thing is a collaboration, but it's a dance between order and chaos, and you have no idea what's going to happen. And believe it or not, Bill Cipher's statue was found months before we even launched the hunt.
Oh my gosh.
Really?
Check this out. I believe it was Mystery of Gravity, or Gravity Falls Cipher, our friend, that mysterious fella who is aware of all things online, who alerted me to the fact before we even started that someone had. Basically, what happened was this kid Bradley was just wandering around in the woods. He lives in Reedsport. He saw the Bill Cipher statue, never heard of Gravity Falls, had no context for it. The thing hadn't been launched. I don't even know if the show had ended yet at this point. And
How did he know to dig up a USB stick?
Well, he didn't. So here's the thing. He took a picture of it and he uploaded it, again, ages before this thing was even started, to a Reddit Unsolved Mysteries, Creepypasta, X-File.
Bill wasn't even dead yet.
Exactly. And he said, hey, I saw this thing in the woods. Does anyone know what this is? And it was a blurry picture, and he wasn't like a well-known Redditor, and nobody even saw it. But somehow, if I'm remembering correctly, my friend Gravity Falls Cipher reached out to me and said, somebody found this thing. And what I did is, as the voice of God, I was like, see if you can get a hold of this guy's email.
Kidnap him, put him in a van.
I emailed him. I said, hey, congratulations, Bradley. But finding this means that you've got a prize. But you have to take that picture off of Reddit immediately. Take the picture off of Reddit, give me a call, and I'll explain. So he deleted the image off of Reddit. He called me. I just heard this kid's voice like, hey, what's up? This is Bradley. I was like, Bradley, I think it was like 2 a.m. when I was talking to him. I was like, Bradley,
are you up? You have to meet me at the Twin Pines Mall.
Bradley, this is very important. And so I was like, Bradley, here's what's up. I've created this big fun treasure hunt, and it's part of a project for a television series. And actually, you, amazingly, you found it first. And I would love to send you some Gravity Falls goodies and $100. And he's like, oh yeah, $100. Yeah, okay. I just have to delete the picture. I was like, yeah. All you got to do is delete the picture. And he's like, but wait, so like everyone's gonna be hunting for this.
So Mystery Shack Lookback exclusive. Cipher Hunt would not have panned out how it did if Alex Hirsch did not bribe a child that he found on Reddit at 2 a.m.
In the dead of night, I bribed a child and I said, like, I'll give you $100, you delete the thing. And he's like, oh, but I'm the one who found it. Like, is someone else going to get credit for finding it? I was like, Bradley, you could take credit for being the first one to find it after the thing has been located. And so Bradley took it upon himself to... And he's like, so what's there? What are people looking for? I'm like, oh, I've buried a little treasure chest. So Bradley came back, opened up the treasure chest, wrote down Bradley was here, reburied it, deleted it. I sent him $100, but he managed to be part of Gravity Falls lore forever. But that's a podcast exclusive. No one has ever heard of this.
That's amazing.
Wow.
The Tale of Bradley.
He just did that himself. He wrote that himself. He just decided to face.
I'm imagining that one day Bradley will create a cartoon show of his own, and Alex will just, from working in that world, be exposed to it and be like, why does that name sound so familiar?
It's Bradley.
I will try to spoil his treasure.
Yeah.
And I'll get my $100 back.
Alex was here.
This podcast is all to say, 1, bring back mustard brushes, but 2, this is kind of a heist that we're doing. It's called Benjamin Heist. We're trying to get Alex's $100 back from Bradley.
Just give me my cash, Bradley. These cipher hunts don't come cheap.
So kudos to Bradley, and kudos to the official Gravity Falls mayor and the family that found all these treasures.
After learning the truth, Bradley went back to the statue to film a video for YouTube, as well as to sign his name on one of the stambucks, as well as add a text file labeled hi to the USB, which contained a link to his Twitter account.
I'll just let you know I wasn't purposely looking for this, and I stumbled across it. And we ended up walking around different parts of the forest thinking maybe it's like a clue or something, because we didn't know it was from Gravity Falls. So to be honest, I don't watch TV that much, but I found it. If you guys want to, know where it's at, I'll edit this video and shit and show you where it's at, where to get to it. I just heard a loud boom, but yeah, this is it. My friend told me to shake its hand. Fire does not come out, Derek. Okay, but yeah, his hat's off. I don't know if someone came over here and didn't know what it was about and just broke it, but you can see that there's styrofoam on the ground. It's not like rock or anything. It's like there's like foam inside of it. But
and that pretty much concludes the Cipher Hunt saga. But wait, there was one final prize I forgot to mention. And so, the final prize for finding Bill's statue was the unreleased Gravity Falls pilot. During the initial pitching phase of the show, back when Alex was still trying to convince Disney to do the show, he was asked to create a pilot so they could get a better idea of how the show would work, what it might look and sound like, etc. First produced back in 2010, the pilot was considered lost media for years up until its eventual release on August 3rd, 2016, at the conclusion of Cipher Hunt. A main reason it took so long for this pilot to be released is mainly because Alex simply didn't want to release it. Because, according to him, the pilot was a mess and it would be like showing someone his photos from his high school prom. But Alex promised that if the physical Bill Cipher puzzle was finished, that he'd release the pilot. Which is what he did. On the USB drive found in the treasure chest, there were 2 keywords in addition to the message from Grunkle Stan. These keywords are return backwards and to the past again 3. These are the username and password needed to access the pilot once it was posted on the Mystery of Gravity Falls website. The pilot itself is quite similar to the final version of Tourist Trapped that we ended up getting, but with some major differences. The pilot begins with a flash forward of Dipper and Mabel falling from a cliff in a golf cart while being chased by a tidal wave of horror. Then it cuts back to Dipper narrating how their parents sent them to spend their summer with their great uncle Stan in the town of Gravity Falls, Oregon, where they soon came face to face with the town's mysteries and secrets. Later on, Dipper finds a mysterious book called Dr. Crackpot's Book of the Damned. With facts and notes about magical creatures, he starts believing that Mabel's boyfriend is a zombie because of his strange behavior, and starts to secretly record him to confirm his suspicions. Of course, Mabel doesn't believe Dipper. Right when he's about to give up, Dipper watches a video he recorded where Norman drops one of his hands and then picks it up. Convinced that Norman is a zombie, he borrows the golf cart from Stan and rushes to save Mabel. Meanwhile, Mabel is with Norman, who reveals that he is actually a gnome named Jeff standing on top of 4 other gnomes, and that they want to marry her and make her their queen. When she rejects their proposal, they kidnap her. Dipper finds the gnomes running into the forest carrying a tied up Mabel over their heads and starts to chase them with the cart. Dipper asks what is going on, and Mabel explains that Norman turned out to be a bunch of gnomes. After a golf cart chase in the forest, the twins find themselves surrounded by the gnomes. Then the Gnome King appears. He's an old gnome with a very long white beard which he uses to move around instead of his legs. He announces that the time has come to fulfill Mabel's destiny, as it's written in the prophecy of Schmizeldorf. Mabel tells him to go away as Dipper threatens him and throws a shoe at him. Seeing this, the king says he will release Mabel if Dipper answers a riddle. What is a ghost's favorite ice cream flavor? Mabel thinks that it's blueberry, while Dipper believes it's cookies and screams. She asks him to trust her, so Dipper answers blueberry. This turns out to be the right answer, and all the gnomes become stone statues. The twins return to the shack. Mabel says that she is sorry she didn't trust Dipper before, and that she feels sad that her first boyfriend was just a bunch of gnomes. Dipper tries to cheer her up by saying that her next boyfriend may be a vampire. Then they hug. When they ring the shack's doorbell, Stan opens it, covered in melted stains with red Freezy Pops that he had been eating. He tries to say brain freeze, but can only say brain before the twins think he is a zombie and start pelting him with rocks. The episode closes with Dipper's narration, who says that it was the last weird day of summer. But this isn't the only early Gravity Falls footage that exists. Alex revealed in 2022 that, alongside the pilot, a Next Time on Gravity Falls preview was also made. This was made as a fake trailer for what was to come next in the show, in an attempt to make executives more interested in the show. In an interview of YouTube users ThatGFFan and Hannah Hyperfixates in 2024, Alex further elaborated on the preview, and that he was inspired by a similar thing that had occurred in the show Arrested Development, saying,
I was approached directly by an executive at Disney Television. They were looking to change their brand. They had new executives, and they liked my work, and they asked if I would come and work in development with them. And my dream was to have a television show, and I thought this would be a faster way to get to that dream. So I said goodbye to all my friends in Flapjack. I moved into an office at Disney. I was very young. I didn't know anything. I had no idea what I was doing. There was sort of a deal made where they said, if you help us develop one of our shows, we'll help you develop one of your shows. Right. So they said, if you help us come up with characters for the Fish High School show, we will consider your pitch for a show about you and your sister and your grandpa. So I was really trying to figure out how to sell this show. And I remembered that in the TV show Arrested Development, there was this running gag where they would always say, next time on Arrested Development. And then they would show clips that never were in the next episode. It was a trick that the creator of Arrested Development, Mitch Hurwitz, had come up with to get his own show greenlit. He thought, if I show them a next time on sequence, it will make their like lizard brains think the show already exists, right? They'll be like, oh, there it is, there's the show. And so I was like, I'm going to try the same trick. So when I ordered the Gravity Falls pilot, I created a next time on Gravity Falls, and it had all these fake scenes that, there was a proto version of Gideon looking angry, and there was a Dipper looking wistfully at a proto version of Wendy, and there was just lots of quick cuts of a UFO crashing and an alien monster, and a monster biting somebody's head off, and spooky other twins, and there was no real meaning behind it other than I was sort of thinking of it like the DuckTales intro, just like cars, lasers, airplanes, look at all the stuff that's going to be in the project. And it was so effective and so successful at getting the show picked up. Like, not only did they test the pilot episode, but they tested the next time on, and all the executives passed it around and said, look, all the things that are going to be on the show, that after Gravity Falls got greenlit, they made every other show in development create a next time on. Oh, wow. So Owl House had to make a next time on, and Amphibia had to make a next time on, and DuckTales had to make a next time on. Like, they literally built it into their pipeline.
You changed the style guide.
Yeah, I did. No, they I ripped off Mitch Hurwitz, and then everyone ripped off Gravity Falls, ripping off Mitch Hurwitz. So that was essentially an internal sales tool, and the reason that those were never intended to be released is that they were internal sales documents, which meant that they weren't like legally cleared for air. They have sound effects, music, and stuff that we just grab a texture off the internet and make that the background of the Gravity Falls wallpaper. We've not paid for that, and so it legally it cannot be shown anywhere. And so the plan was to never release it anywhere. And then when we did the Cipher hunt, I was running out of rewards and treasures to give the audience because I'd already bled Gravity Falls dry of every drop of content that was inside of it. So I said, fuck it, here, have the Gravity Falls pilot. But the next time on, I honestly don't know where that would be. There may be some thumb drive or server in my garage in a box under a bunch of pieces of paper that may have it. Somebody who worked on it may have it, but I don't. It's not like I have and here it is for you. It's lost in the ether. But I mean, it may pop up someday. Somebody who worked on it may have a copy.
So I originally had a whole section here where I talked about how the full trailer had never been posted online, that we didn't even know how long the trailer was, etc. I then explained in detail every single clip that we currently had from the trailer. Well, I don't have to do that anymore. In fact, I deleted that whole section. Why? Because on April 25th, 2024, the full Next Time On reel was leaked online for all to see. I genuinely can't believe that the full trailer was found, and right as I'm wrapping up production on this video too. It's worth noting that the pitch Bible, the production Bible, and various model sheets for the series were leaked alongside the trailer. I won't be showing much of any of these because the whole manner in which they were leaked is still up in the air. But it is nice to know that after all of these years, Gravity Falls' last major lost media hunt is finally over. Everything wrapped up in a neat little bow and no more mysteries left to solve. Well, except for one. If you've stuck around this far into the video, I truly thank you. This video took a lot of time and effort to do the way I wanted to do it, and it's been a really fun time reliving Gravity Falls again. But before we go, there's one last thing I want to touch on. Something that people in the community have certainly talked about over the years, but something that I don't think has been discussed as much as it should be. The axolotl. For those unaware, an axolotl is an aquatic salamander native to one specific lake in Mexico City. What's most interesting about the axolotl is their regenerative abilities. That's right, the axolotl is capable of healing itself. Lost limbs, its tail, even its central nervous system and certain eye and heart tissues, as well as the less vital parts of the brain. So you're probably thinking, cool, a magic salamander. But what does this have to do with Gravity Falls? Well, that's the thing. In my humble opinion, The axolotl is hands down the most important part of Gravity Falls lore. Why do I think this? Let's play Bill's last words again.
XOLOTL! My titan stops to burn! I push the ancient power that I may return!
Did you catch it? At the beginning of Bill's dying words, he spells out axolotl, pretty much begging for a way to return one day. And this isn't the only mention of the axolotl. For starters, let's take a look at the real-life Journal 3 book. If we go to the Portal Aperture page and use a combined symbol substitution cipher on the symbols at the bottom of the page, we get the following message. I'll get this puppy up and running one day, and neither Time Baby nor the Big Philly Know-It-All will stop me. So from this message, it's pretty clear that Bill and the axolotl have history, or at the very least, are aware of one another's existence. And if that wasn't enough, let's go all the way back to the first ever episode, Tourist Trapped. In the Pines living room, we see a terrarium with no other than an axolotl inside it. Alex Hirsch has clearly been playing the long game with the axolotl. But what is it? Is it an all-powerful being like Bill? A god? Well, to hopefully shed some light on that question, we go back to Dipper and Mabel in The Curse of the Time Pirate's Treasure, Select Your Own Choose Venture. On page 246 of the book, there is a cryptogram, and once deciphered, we get a website link, www.disneyxd.com/a-wrong-turn. And while the link is now inactive, at the time, the link would have taken you to a page not in the book itself, where Dipper and Mabel find themselves face to face with the all-knowing axolotl. He allows each of them to ask one question. Dipper asks him, "What do you know about Bill Cipher?" To which the axolotl's eyes glow as he speaks the following. 60 degrees that come in threes. Watches from within birch trees. Saw his own dimension burn. Misses home and can't return. Says he's happy. He's a liar. Blame the arson for the fire. If he wants to shirk the blame, he'll have to invoke my name. One way to absolve his crime, a different form, a different time. What does all this mean? Well, let's break it down line by line. 60 degrees that come in threes. This is a pretty obvious one as it's referring to Bill's triangle shape. Equilateral triangles are 180 degree shapes, so add up 3 sets of 60 degrees and you get 180. Watches from within birch trees. This refers to the scene in sock opera where Bill watches Dipper from within the trees. Saw his own dimension burn. Self-explanatory. Bill watched his dimension burn around him. Now, was he the cause of it, or a victim? In the show, Bill specifically states that he liberated his own dimension. But, as we'll discuss in a bit, I don't believe that is actually the case. Misses home and can't return. Regardless of whether Bill intentionally destroyed his dimension or not, he's homesick. He misses the place. But he hated it there, right? Why would he even want to think about it again? Bill's dimension was reportedly a very tight and restrictive place. Everything that Bill himself is against. He wants freedom, and the restrictions of his former home denied him that freedom. Says he's happy, he's a liar. This line right here is a major takeaway for me. Every time we see Bill on the show, he's more often than not happy or enthused at any given situation. Yes, we've also seen him angry plenty of times, but he always has a look of sadistic glee on his face. This line implies that it's all a front, that all the emotions we've seen Bill act are just that, an act. I'm not sure what else this line could imply, other than the fact that Bill has been lying to us about his happiness. Coupled with the last line, could it be that he's depressed about his home dimension no longer being around, to the point where he has to lie about his happiness when it comes to taking over Gravity Falls? Well, yes. He's not only lying to us, but also to himself, and I can prove it. On April 2nd, 2015, Alex Hirsch hosted a Reddit AMA in character as Bill. User S325 Diana asked Bill, "How do you feel after lying about being a human being to get in here?" To which Bill responded as follows. "Little tip from someone who's been around the block. Truth is a tattletale and no friends. Truth is your annoying uncle who spoils the movie. Truth is a concept invented by powerful liars to guilt you into giving them more power. Don't fall for the trap. Lie until what you want to be true becomes true. Lie until you can't remember what's a lie and what isn't. Lie until you aren't lying anymore." Bill has lied so much through the years that his lies have become reality in his eyes. Blame the arson for the fire. Going back to saw his own dimension burn, is it possible that Bill did indeed burn down his own dimension? Sure, it's definitely possible, but as we've now established, Bill is clearly a pathological liar according to the axolotl's poem. So instead of blaming Bill, the axolotl seems to be telling us to blame the event itself and not who caused it. And then we have the final 4 lines. If he wants to shirk the blame, he'll have to invoke my name. One way to absolve his crime, a different form, a different time. For these, let's listen to Bill's last words once again.
XOLOTL! My time has got to burn! I push the ancient power that I may return!
If Bill wants redemption, then he has to invoke the name of the axolotl for the crimes he's committed. Once he's absolved of his crimes, then and only then can he return. But in a different form and a different time. When Alex Hirsch was asked about the axolotl in a 2017 interview, he said as follows. "In terms of Bill's secret message, I like stories that complete their emotional arcs, but still leave some lingering threads to chew on. It gives the fans something to theorize on, and it gives me a window back into that world if I ever choose to return to it." So if Alex ever makes a sequel to the show, be it in a 3rd season or a movie, or a comic continuation, then you can bet that the axolotl will be involved in some way, shape, or form. Wait, what's happening? Oh no. Yeah, so when I was working on finishing this video, Alex Hirsch made an announcement. A new Gravity Falls book intended for adult readers called The Book of Bill is being made, and it'll be released on July 23rd, 2024. This announcement came with a description of the book, which reads as follows. Did you miss him? Admit it. You missed him. The demon that terrorized Gravity Falls is back from the great beyond to finally tell his side of the story in The Book of Bill, written by none other than Bill Cipher himself. Inside, Bill sheds light on his bizarre origins, his sinister effects on human history, the Pines family's most embarrassing secrets, and the key to overthrowing the world, laid out in a handy step-by-step guide. This chaotic and beautifully illustrated tome contains baffling riddles, uncrackable ciphers, lost journal 3 pages, ways to cheat death, the meaning of life, and a whole chapter on silly straws. But most importantly, the Book of Bill is deeply, deeply cursed. Alex Hirsch, #1 New York Times bestselling author, resuscitates this infamous villain and invites fans to a Bill's eye view of the Gravity Falls universe. There are many who believe this book is too dangerous for human hands. But if you can't resist, just know this. Once you make a deal with Bill, it's not so easily undone. So after years of questions about Bill, it seems that the Book of Bill will finally have the answers we've been searching for. But will we get some insight into Bill's relationship with the axolotl? Only time will tell. When I first started this journey, I knew it would be quite the monumental task. Cover every aspect of Gravity Falls, from the show to the hidden messages to Cipher Hunt and beyond. A lot of people called me crazy or insane. But after spending a summer in Gravity Falls, I have to admit, it's hard to leave it all behind. When tackling a project of this caliber and going so in depth with the source material, you start to feel closer to the characters and the world that they inhabit. And I think there's something to be said for any show that can bring out those kind of emotions in people. But all good things must eventually end. And hey, if you ever find yourself taking a road trip through the Pacific Northwest, you might just see a bumper sticker for a place called Gravity Falls. It's not on any maps, and some people might even think it's a myth. But it's realer than any other town I've been to. It's welcoming, it's a bit strange, but it's home. Nothing there is normal, and I wouldn't have it any other way. Hey everyone, Seeker here, and well, here we are. This video has been a long time coming. I originally started production on this video in August of 2022, with plans for it to release at the end of that year. That obviously never happened. Various delays and the project being a lot more ambitious than I originally intended contributed to such a delay. But it's finally done, and I hope you all enjoyed the final product. I want to thank my friend and fellow Lost Media YouTuber Scribbles To Screen for helping out with the opening of the video. So definitely check out his channel if you haven't already. I also want to take this time to show off this amazing art that my good friend Dylan made for me in anticipation of this video. This art is where the new Secret Pit comes from as well. I'll leave a link to his Instagram in the side cards, so please go ahead and support his stuff. Also in the side cards are links to my Ko-Fi and Patreon pages, so you can support me and the channel and help me make more ambitious projects in the future. Thanks for watching everyone, and I'll see you all next time.